Welcome everybody to the MinnMax show, where we dive into the latest and greatest in gaming news, reviews, and discussions. I'm Ben Hansen, and I'm joined by my three trusty cohorts. We have Leo Vader,
masterful intro,
Sarah Podzorski, and special guest Jill Grote. Today, we've got a packed episode for you as we delve into the Nintendo Direct, the latest installment in the Hitman franchise, the highly anticipated game of Space For The Unbound, and we'll also be answering some of your favorite community questions. So sit back, grab your controllers, and let's get gaming.
What is going on with you, man?
I'm excited. This is a hell of a show. We have Jill Grote, the master of the Indie Informer here. We have the big Nintendo Direct. When we're recording this, we are hot off the presses. There is still a glow in our hearts and our eyes because we just watched this thing. We just streamed a whole reaction on MinnMax's YouTube channel if you want to see a frame-by-frame breakdown of... I actually saw Sarah start to elevate, like up to the heavens. Like she was glowing. Ooh. It was fantastic. So we're going to unpack all those reasons why. But Jill, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, from the Indie Informer, your hot new website, which is blowing the hell up.
It's exploding. Everyone run.
It's not stable. I built it insecurely. No, congratulations. We're going to unpack a little more community questions and all that fun stuff. But we were planning to have you on to talk about a bunch of wonderful indie games. And then Nintendo.
And then Nintendo decided to just stomp all over that idea.
Yeah, they said, get the hell out of the way because we have a lot of big news to share. And thank God you also care about Nintendo games so you can help us unpack all this fun stuff.
Or even some indie Nintendo games.
Oh, nice double dip. Okay, the big Nintendo Direct. Every February, Nintendo graces us with its presence and jumps in there with just the holiest of holies. They throw out everything they've got in February typically. This Direct, you know, you can watch the reaction. I was a little scared. I was a little underwhelmed. And then about halfway through, it started just bam, 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 bam. And then by the end of it, it seemed like all of us were wowed. But Jill, how was your experience of sitting back and watching this thing?
It's kind of the same. It started off real strong for me. I'm super excited for Pikmin 4.
Yeah.
And you throw a dog in there, and there's nothing you can do to stop me being excited. But then it started being like a very large chunk of games where all my notes were like, why is this in a Direct? You know, like there are going to be people who love it and I'm glad for them. But like Maraca Heroes, whatever.
Samba de Amigo Party Central?
Yes. Not high on my list of excited for this year.
You should be. I mean, everybody loves Samba de Amigo, the bizarre monkey Dreamcast game that then Gearbox ported to the Nintendo Wii. Sarah, do you have any familiarity with the absurdity of Samba de Amigo?
No.
Did that trailer do anything for you? Like cute monkeys and you can test your love connection to other people by shaking Joy-Cons / maracas as a monkey?
Costumes on them.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the rhythm game aspect was kind of cool, but like, I don't know if just like shaking my hands back and forth is like really doing it for me.
Well,
I don't know if like maracing around is really quite what I'm looking for.
I would be interested to see the HD rumble if they have a way to make you feel like you're shaking, sand around.
I want to feel the fur of those monkeys in my palms with this thing. Okay, we should unpack. There's so much to get to. There's just too much to get to. Pikmin 4, since you mentioned it, Jill, we should probably talk about this thing. You can't mention a game and not have us unpack it. This is how they kick off the whole thing. We got the ship in space. We got the whole crash landing scenario. And we all love Pikmin here. We're a pro Pikmin podcast, especially Pikmin Bloom. Leo devoted what felt like years of his life to Pikmin Bloom.
I was wondering if that's going to get any kind of crossover.
Ooh, I'm curious. What was your take, Sarah, on the Pikmin 4 trailer?
It sure looks like Pikmin game.
Okay. Is that said with love?
Looks like a Pikmin game. No, I mean, I like the Pikmin series. I can't play it. It stresses me out on a personal level, being responsible for so many small lives and then just like sacrificing them.
Okay, but you see their ghosts, and all the ghosts do go to heaven if they were being like dragged down to hell after they died.
Are we sure? Do we have confirmation of that?
I haven't talked to any of them after they died, but I guess it's assumed. But yeah, then they're like, hey, we have an ice Pikmin. And if that's not good enough for you with Pikmin 4, we also are just bringing a dog into Pikmin. And it
like they were like, people like dogs.
Yeah. Very simple, like weirdo alien dogs that it looks like an alien version of Yoshi's dog Poochie, who of course
Yeah,
we all
it
know
does.
and love. But it's
It's just fantastic.
yeah.
Like, it's so transparent of just like, people like dog, let's put a dog in. But then I'm like 100%, oh my God, a dog, I love this. So it totally works.
yeah,
It worked for cats in Mario Land.
that's true.
There you go.
Yeah, everybody loves it. Yeah, and it looks like you can have the dog do stuff for you, and you're like riding around on it, like over water and whatnot. But then they had to freak everybody out in the end of the Pikmin 4 trailer. It just showed like nightmare mode, where like all the creatures just had glowing red eyes. It's like the blood moon rose within the world of Pikmin. So I guess Pikmin is scary now, but there's a dog to help you get through it. Is kind
It
of
was always
tagline.
scary. Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
It was always scary when you get the timer and the sun would start going down. If
That
you
is
didn't make
true.
it back to the ship, all your Pikmin would die. That is what I thought that it would look like as a child. Like, I thought everything was going to get red eyes and immediately start massacring me.
It felt like that, yeah. It's coming out July 21st, 2023. Leo, chances you buy and enjoy Pikmin 4 this year?
Low. I haven't really played a Pikmin game since I was a kid, and I don't feel like I would start with this one.
Yeah?
I feel like I would try to get a cheaper copy of an old one.
Yeah, I mean, you could get like the port of Pikmin 3 and stuff, but Pikmin 3, God bless it, but I always felt like the controls were just... To be fair, I never played the Switch port, so maybe I should stop talking. But like, I tried to play it multiple times on the Wii U, and they had like so many different control schemes, and everyone just wasn't ideal. It's like you can set up the Wii U gamepad for the map in front of you, then you have to have the Wiimote and nunchuck. It's like there was no convenient way to play it, and it felt like too much of an ordeal, so I didn't give it the amount of love that it deserved. But I'm excited for Pikmin 4. It feels like July is a good time for that thing to come out. Leo, what do you want to talk about most from everything in Nintendo Direct? You could jump anywhere.
I want to hear more about Fantasy Life.
Ooh, yeah.
That was a surprise. That was a surprise addition.
Very odd. Yeah, so technically, Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals time, is the name of this thing. Sarah, regale us. Tell us a tale of what Fantasy Life was back in the day.
Fantasy Life for the DS was kind of like a small JRPG, traditional JRPG, but you could play different roles. So you could play both like a magician and a chef, and you would progress both of those roles kind of at the same time, and you would level them separately.
Right.
But then they would kind of like come together where like you could do a little bit of crafting, but then you would have to get materials from monsters. So you would have to go out and get materials from monsters. And there was kind of like a little narrative story to it.
I remember...
People really liked it. People who played it really liked it, including me.
Yeah, I remember it was a little grindy. It's like, oh, this is cute. I like choosing the different roles in here. And then it's like, okay, do 3,000 of this thing in that role. It's like, okay, I kind of exhausted at a certain point. But
Yeah, I'd be like, craft 10 thread.
yeah.
And you're like, here I go.
So was it like, I remember Roy on the 8-4 Play podcast talking about how much he loved it. Was that the same time you were there? Do you associate it with like being in Japan playing this with that crew?
Yeah, because I think that's where I got it. We had like an extra copy
Okay.
that I think I took. So I don't think I would have tried it unless I got that free copy. But it feels like I'm playing like an MMO, but without other people. Like if you took out all other aspects of an MMO and you just made
Right.
it a single player experience, maybe it's a little more like solid and, a little more linear and the world's a little bit smaller, but it was fun.
Yeah, and it does look like this one has room for multiple players, Leo. So if that's moving a needle for you.
Absolutely. My partner and I are always looking for more games like this.
Yeah, what game are you always playing on Steam? It's like Pogo Farm or something?
Pomo Farm. But that's not.
That's not a farm game?
It'd be a lot of waiting if I played that with Marie. It's basically a Pomodoro timer, meaning 25 minutes working, and then for your 5-minute break in between those working sessions, you get to access your farm and pick your plants and do new plants. It's
And you
cute. I
get-
really like it.
Currency for like doing it's like a task timer.
What?
So you set Pomo Farm and then they're like for 20 minutes you have to work, and then for 20 minutes you work, and then does a little alarm, and then they're like, now you can harvest your plants and buy seeds, and then you set the timer again and you work again.
Which is a way of working I've really vibed on the last year and a half. It's really changed my ability to motivate myself at home. And this is just like a different way of timing it. That's fun. You got a little progression going.
That is such a weird idea. So you just have a game running all the time just to keep you working.
Right.
That's bizarre. Anyways, Fantasy Life I, yeah, Girls Steal Time. They said 2023, but that was one of the biggest surprises of this overall thing for the Nintendo Direct is like level 5 was just swinging for. Like they've been kind of quiet for a while. Seems like in my mind, like since Ni no Kuni 2. I'm trying to think of the big releases since then. And then in this direct, they had Fantasy Life I, they had Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, so a new Professor Layton game, which is super exciting. And then they also had the reveal of a hot new property, Deca Police, everybody. Jill, can you describe what Deca Police was like?
Oh, do I have my notes? Because I feel like I was a little sassy on this one.
Yep, you might have been sassy.
I said anime AF persona cartoon detective mixed together.
Right. And then a big thumbs kind of up / kind of down. Deca Police. It's weird. So it's anime police turn-based combat, but the police are like 14-year-olds. I can't quite tell.
And it's like they're in the internet?
Yeah.
Because
And
did they like go
turned into a
online?
cat.
Yeah, because somebody messed with their data.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good hook for a trailer. Like, hey, you can be little kitty copies in this turn-based RPG from level 5. And then it just seems like all hell breaks loose by the end. There's like weird monsters. And then somebody's like, I'm a cat now. They're trying everything they've got to get you interested in Deca Police, which is weird because like Astral Chain from Platinum came out, was that 2019, I think, on the Nintendo Switch, where it's also like, hey, cops in this
Sure, you could also be
nightlife
cops.
city. Yeah, and it seemed like, I like that game, but it seemed like it didn't tear up any sales charts, so it's interesting to see level 5 now, like, well, what if we made a cop game on the Switch? This is going to be the one that's going to break through in a way. So curious to see how Deca Police sits with folks out there. They also showed off, speaking of Platinum, the Bayonetta Origins, that prequel thing that's coming out March 17th, all that fun stuff.
I really like the art style for that. That every time I see that, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to play this, but like, I really enjoy the way it looks.
Yeah, it looks wonderful. Sarah, what made you sing like an angel during this thing?
Where do I start?
Yeah, please.
Where do I start with this?
Start with your tweet, your hot, prescient tweet.
Oh, you mean the fact that I am a witch? I am a psychic?
Right.
This morning I tweeted a photo of a bunch of games that I wanted to appear at the Direct.
Yeah.
And it was Baten Kaitos, Kirby Air Ride, Wind Waker, Girls Mode or Style Savvy, and then Fantasy Life, and then Nintendogs. And you know what? We got 2 out of 3, technically 3 out of 9,
good.
which I think is pretty solid.
It's impressive.
It's pretty good, 50%, I'd say.
So what is this fashion thing?
So fashion, I did some research.
Please.
Fashion Dreamer. And it looks a lot like the Style Savvy series, which was Sin Sophia's fashion game that came out on like several of the DSs in its life cycle.
Okay.
And this looks incredibly similar to Style Savvy, even though it doesn't have the name. And I did check in the developer is Sin Sophia, so we can all rest easy knowing that this isn't some bizarre ripoff. Yeah, we can all go to bed tonight. I was sweating trying to find this information for the podcast.
Thank you.
And it's finally coming to the Switch, and I think we've all been waiting for a dress-up fashion. Well, I personally have been waiting for a style-savvy game to come to the Switch.
So what is the gameplay of that?
Yeah.
In the DS games, you would like run a shop. You would own a shop. But in this one, I read like a little... There hasn't been much information, and I read it, and it was like, you're an influencer, and you can go up to other influencers and like take their clothes.
Yes.
And then make them like change their clothes. So I don't know if I'm as big of a fan of this premise as like the own a little shop, because you used to just own a little shop. People would
I'd
come in and
rather
be
own
like,
a little shop. I'll tell you
I have
that
a
right
picnic. What should I wear? I like pink. And you'd be like, this. Get me your money. I don't know how I feel about this like influencer premise.
Well, they're probably just going to have like a shop on the side or something, right? Like it seems weird that they would get rid of that.
Like
I mean,
an
how
online
many
shop maybe?
I mean, how many gameplay mechanics could they pack into this thing to begin with? Like the idea of stripping out the idea of building up a shop seems like a terrible decision.
Right? But it looked kind of empty. Like there were just people standing in like a weird ether.
Right.
It looked like you were all in purgatory together killing
Yeah, like a Mobius staircases everywhere.
Fashion Dreamer is the name of this thing, exclusive to the Switch, going to be launching in 2023. Maybe this will get us really into fashion, Leo. Do you think there's a world where like we could start caring about fashion? I'm maybe going out on an assumption branch of this big old tree of life to assume that you don't care about fashion, but are we in the same camp there?
I'm honestly on board for it. I've never considered myself super into fashion, no, but like a little job simulator is way up my alley.
Right. All right, good enough for me. Okay, Sarah, and then the big one was Baten Kaitos, batten down the hatches.
I know. That was 1 and 2. I was just expecting the Revenant Wings one, like the more popular one.
Right.
But I was shocked that Eternal Wings is the more popular one. I was shocked that it was 1 and 2.
It's ridiculous. Okay, so this is Monolith Productions, right? Like one of their earlier games from mid 2000s, early 2000s on the GameCube. And so it's the same team that made Xenoblade, which blows my mind because like if they're also doing this HD remaster, the fact that they were cranking out Xenoblade 3 pretty damn quickly, and then they're also working on DLC for that game and doing this, or maybe they got another team to handle it. But I remember seeing this game back in the day, and a friend said it was awesome, and I would watch him play a little bit. But this was like my first distinct memory of seeing cards in a game and being like, I don't think I can do this. I'm confused, and it looks like smart person stuff, and there's too many numbers. But you're saying the card system shouldn't be scary?
No, I don't think the card system. I mean, it was difficult, I will say, when I was playing it as a kid, trying to get like a strategy, because it is a card game. So like you get what you get, and sometimes it's a bad hand, sometimes it's several bad hands, and then you're just screwed. But I don't know. Were
you just hungry for big JRPGs on the GameCube back in the day? Like I'm trying to figure out like what is the magic of Baten Kaitos other than a confusing name? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one of my first JRPGs. And I really liked this. It was my first like JRPG story. So like all the twists and like betrayals were actually still interesting to me.
Right. This is a bizarre time because we have the Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD coming out summer 2023, and then Tales of Symphonia, that remaster is coming out the 17th. Like if
they must have discovered that I have money now. Like literally I finally got my own income and they were like, get it.
Please, all the nostalgia she can handle. And that GameCube train, and also one of the biggest reveals of this whole frickin' thing is they revealed that the Metroid Prime remaster is real, Jill. This is actually a thing that's happening.
They're doing it, and it's today, right? It drops today.
Yes, I mean, good God, yeah. I mean, things were coming so fast and loose here. I forgot about that, but yeah. It is dropping today. The physical version is dropping on the 22nd, they said, but digital is launching now, which is really odd that they'd separate it like that. But Leo, are you just a Metroid Prime appreciator, or where's your stance on this thing? Did you play it back in the day?
I played it as a kid at a friend's house, and it really blew my mind. Like the mood of it. Yeah. The immersive factor that I think, was part of the franchise already, but never really struck me the way it struck me then. Yeah. It was like, I would consider it formative, but have not gone back to it. So this is a perfect product for me.
Yeah, and I love that even in the remastered trailer, they're emphasizing the mood still, but that's just kind of part of the Metroid brand, I guess, at this point. But just hearing that music again, just the title screen, all of that music, oh my God. And then the fact that they have new control options, so you can actually just use both analog sticks now and look around, which sounds miraculous. I know it seems bizarre, but like that's going to be such a cool way to play it. And that game already looked amazing, and I think held up pretty well, but just having like an HD version of that thing. I mean, also Jeff Grubb over at Giant Bomb has been saying that this thing has existed for a long time, and it's nice to prove that he's not out of his mind, that actually this is a thing that Nintendo has in fact been sitting on. I think we all assumed that they were sitting on it to wait for like the build up and the ramp to Metroid Prime 4 and to start pushing for that. And so to not have a tease of Metroid Prime 4 in this entire direct, Jill, what do you make of it? Are we just trying to connect these dots too much?
I was waiting for it, actually. Yeah. I was sort of like, okay, this is where they're gonna. I didn't think they were gonna do anything big, but I did think they were gonna say something like, and you can still expect this coming soon, or we're still working diligently on blah blah blah. But
right.
So weird for them just to not mention it at all.
It's a little scary. I think they want to save some things for kind of the end phase of the Switch's life, I guess, but
they were pretty clear how this was supposed to be games that are coming in the first part of 2023, so maybe that's why we weren't hearing anything, but it was still a little weird for me.
Yeah. And so it's always that thing of like, when they have the presenter, I forget his name, forgive me, but when he just comes on there and just kind of like, after the trailer, just repeats some of the info that was already in the trailer. It's like we see a dog for 3 minutes in Pikmin 4, then he pops up and he's like, in Pikmin 4, there's a dog. So yeah, we got that. Like, this is an instance where I feel like he could have popped up after the Metroid Prime remaster trailers to be like, development is challenging, but it's going well down at Retro. Please look forward to more news on Metroid Prime 4 in the future. But still amazing we're getting this remastered thing. Curious to see if they'd ever do 2 and 3. But also, it's interesting that like this is coming out so close to Dead Space, you know, where it's like, okay, we're just doing the first Dead Space and we'll wait and see if anyone wants remakes of the other ones. And it's kind of a similar situation now for Metroid Prime of like, if this thing sells like hotcakes, maybe they do a 2 and a 3. But I don't know if Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is going to get the enthusiasm that they demand. But still, super exciting. Let's see. Oh, other smaller things still exciting. Advance Wars Reboot Camp. We've been waiting for that for a long time.
Yeah, that was great to get the date for that.
Yeah, so that thing's coming April 21st, everybody. I think it's supposed to come out, April of last year? I forget exactly when that release date was supposed to be, but hold on, folks. But Jill, what are you excited to talk about? What else haven't we hit in this whole thing?
Hitting off the major indies, and so like the highlights for me are going to be, we got a Sea of Stars date.
Right.
That's amazing. Plus a demo and multiple demos for different things throughout. And obviously they don't know that I'm already busy with Steam Next Fest. So I have more demos.
So many demos. It's too many demos.
Yeah, and the thing that has me a little scared with Sea of Stars, which remember is kind of that Game Boy Advance looking RPG from the developers of The Messenger for Sea of Stars. It was supposed to come out December of last year. Is that right, Jill?
Something like,
Okay. Mitsuda's doing part of the soundtrack, the Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross composer. But they said, hey, free demo out now for this thing. But then they didn't say if the progress would carry over because it's coming out August 29th. So maybe that's too much of a gap and they don't want that progress to carry over. But what was it? Also, Octopath Traveler 2 also had a demo drop.
Octopath Traveler has a demo today. That was the other big one for me.
Yeah.
And then the other big thing is the Dead Cells Return to Castlevania DLC.
Yeah.
Now that has a date, and that's March 6th.
I think it's going to be huge.
That's going to be super fun. So, like, we had a really good indie showing here, except I think perhaps some people may be sad that we didn't get the game that maybe I shouldn't say because the internet will explode.
You can say it. You can let it explode.
Yeah, I'm sad that we didn't see any Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
You know? I wanted to see Silksong. But maybe it's Xbox has a thing on being able to show things because the game did show up originally in some Xbox event. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Or was it? It showed up. I think it was at the Nintendo Direct a while ago, the Nintendo Indies thing, and then it was in that Xbox presentation where they said everything's launching within a year, right? And that was in like June of last year. I just remember
being surprised that it was like, oh, Xbox has it. Okay.
Right. Right.
So, it's like, it's weird because I've played this game like way back when it was at E3 in like 2017 or
Really?
Something. I played Silksong.
Weird.
I didn't realize it was like on the show floor.
Yeah.
It was on the show floor. I played it. I beat the boss. It was very exciting.
Weird.
I have to assume this is some alternate timeline and like that didn't actually happen. And
yeah,
Sarah.
Because it's like
I should have told you that Jill's a chronic liar. I should have given you a heads up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Batman.
That's right. So it was playable a long time ago. It's ready to pop, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's been this long. If they had something ready to show on the E3 floor, I want to see more of this game. Part of me is like, it has to come out this year.
Yeah.
But another part of me is like, it's never going to come out. So
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's nice that there's enough other little things in this direct to kind of distract people. So hopefully the internet's not melting down with a lack of news about Silksong. But another little just cool, I guess it's fan service. I guess it's a weird cult hit revival. But it's awesome to see that Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective, that DS game that they eventually brought to iOS. It's the Capcom adventure game, I guess is the best way to put it. But it has a hardcore fan base out there, and it's going to be coming to Switch in the summer. So it'll be a good opportunity to jump in because I started it on iOS, but this will be a nice opportunity, I think, to actually play through Ghost Trick and finally understand what everybody loves about this thing. Leo, what wowed you? What else should we hit?
Before Tears of the Kingdom?
Hey, man, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
I want to talk about it.
Yep. So they closed out the show with Tears of the Kingdom. Walk us through that trailer, Leo. Every damn second of it.
It seems to be dark like what we've seen before. The guy's got red eyes. It's kind of a scary, spooky world. And I feel like there were some new gadgets that's hard to catch the details of.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing we notice is what seems to be like customizable vehicles, hopefully. Not just like, they look basic enough that it seems like you're putting pieces together to make them. Even though we just saw like a land mount and a flying drone.
Yeah, that seems to be the huge thing. If those were like artistically designed, it's a very bold style because I think people will be disappointed now if they aren't able to construct their own vehicles. But you would think for the trailer, they would have that shot of like the UI, or maybe they just don't want to show any UI at this point, but you think they would have that shot of like Link building this thing just to reveal it? Or are they just trying to have half the reveal now of saying there's vehicles in the game, then the other half, maybe it'll still surprise some people later when we say, by the way, you can also make a weird flying vehicle. Because like that shot that got me is when he's on that flying platform later on, it looks like it's kind of like, it's compelling how janky it is, that it's kind of like tilting over a little bit in that shot. Like that's exciting to see, that I can have some wobbly ass vehicles going across this world and the physics is just barely holding it together.
Yeah, the physics goofing is like a big reason why Breath of the Wild has had such longevity, and you keep seeing clips from it that do things you've never dreamed of this many years after it came out.
Right. And the obvious comparison of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, this is the redemption story for every feature in that game.
It was ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
I was really happy with the obvious comparison of like Majora's Mask. That is my favorite Zelda game.
Ooh.
And just having the like meta narrative of it being like weird because Zelda games don't usually have sequels. This is a direct sequel in the same way Majora's Mask was. And then having the beginning of this just all being like, the moon is destroying the world. It's like, oh, that's so cool. That's a connection there. It's probably not going to mean anything to the actual game, but I just love it as a person very interested in Majora's Mask and all of that lore. So having everybody show up, like, do we know what the blood moon is? I don't know if I'm like giving away my ignorance on Breath of the Wild lore, but
like what it is literally in the lore?
Like what's happening? Like,
oh boy,
has anyone ever actually asked, like, why does the moon come up and things reanimate?
There has to be some throwaway line of somebody explaining.
They said it was a mysterious phenomenon.
No.
Calamity Ganon's power reaches its peak during the blood moon.
Okay.
Interesting.
Allowing his evil magic to cover the moon in a crimson glow and turn it into a blood moon. But it did look like the evil was directly related to the blood moon, which is directly related to dehydrated Ganon.
Right.
Beef jerky Ganon.
I'm really interested to see if they're going to dive into that a little more and show us like what's going on with those mechanics. And maybe that's a big part of narrative. Who knows?
Yeah, it's cool to like double down on the blood moon of all things. And then also it seems like double down on Ganon in a big way.
I would like to make the prediction publicly right now that you go to the blood moon and it has low gravity.
Okay.
Land on the blood
kids
moon?
running around it.
Now, I mean, Mario Odyssey just did that not too long ago. You think still it's always
Mario
gonna be a
Odyssey
thrill?
doesn't have claim on space, Ben.
Well,
we talked about this.
That's true. I can't get enough of it. Yeah, the Ganon thing, like actually having Ganon speak in this trailer. I mean, presumably that's Ganon, and the internet is lit on fire. I don't know if it's been confirmed anywhere, but everyone seems to be convinced that that's Matt Mercer, the prolific voice actor. I think
Dungeon Master Extraordinaire.
There we go. Oh, that's why he has such a fan base, of course. Yeah, I just connected him. It's like, oh, I think he was like McCree in Overwatch. I think that's the first time that like I heard that name. But he's on one of those D&D shows.
Oh, Ben, you're so hip with the kids.
I am so offended by what you
I am also offended.
Critical Role?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
Critical
go.
Role is a show. He and the Critical Role team are behind Vox Machina, whose season 2 just started, and it's fantastic.
Really? I'll be damned. Yeah, it's fun. I was looking into it, and apparently there was a fan film called Let There Be Brawl with a bunch of Nintendo characters years ago, and in that, Matt Mercer played Ganon. And so it's a weird full circle if that actually is him in that new trailer that now...
If Matt Mercer's playing Ganon, that canon means that they have to make Ganon hot, right?
Yeah.
My dreams of a hot Ganon redemption arc would be one step closer.
So he just like gets a little eyedropper of like lotion.
Yeah, I
and
think
then puts it on
take beef jerky, we take him, dehydrate him, we rehydrate him.
Yeah.
And we work together as a team. Because it's like the Triforce is always like 3 pieces.
Right.
And it always just feels like a 2v1 situation. And I get that he's evil, but sometimes I feel a little bad.
Right.
That like he doesn't get a buddy.
Okay. And so there is that line later in the trailer where Zelda says, "Please lend him your power." And so that's, you think, implying that they're all going to be buddies and they're just sharing powers back and forth, and there's no harm done.
They also mess Link's arm up.
That's
it looks like
like
Link's arm just becomes evil.
Yeah, it seems like a very
at
bad
one
power.
Point. And I don't know if like that's the power that he's been lended, like a necrotic arm.
Right. But I'm still confused for why. Like, I have to go frame by frame because like in that shot, which was the first trailer where Link's like grabbing Zelda as she's falling down.
Which is just proof that we're not going to be able to play Zelda. They're going to out her within the first 20 minutes of the game. They're going to throw into a pit.
Yep. And so as Link's flying through the sky, he'll just hear her voice echoing from the ground. "I'm still down here, Link, please.
Do you remember me?
I'd be so much fun to play as." Jill, did we miss anything else in this trailer for Tears of the Kingdom? It looked great. It looks silly. It looks very physics-based, which is the part that, I'm with Leo. I'm most excited about. Oh, you're muted there, Jill.
I think that's all I have.
Okay.
May 12th.
May 12th. I mean, that's kind of it's comforting just to have a reconfirmation that it's not getting delayed. Presumably, we have collector's editions out there now. And then the big talker was, according to a bunch of sites that put up pre-orders and whatnot, looks like this is going to be Nintendo's first $70 game, everybody. Am I not cool for seeing that and just being like, yeah, that seems about right? Like, is the internet melting down about this, or does anybody have a hot take, or how's everybody sitting with the idea of Nintendo shifting to $70 games now?
The interesting thing a friend of mine brought up is that Nintendo games do not get marked down the way other games do.
Right,
so
that's interesting.
Kind of it makes it almost a more grim proposition because you're going to be paying $70 for it.
No matter what. I mean, Breath of the Wild is still $60, right? It has to be. I know they had that weird like discount, buy two, get 30 cents off or whatever promo a while ago with Nintendo, but that is true. Yeah, I mean, most $70 games, like Forspoken, God bless it. I'd imagine in 4 months you can get it for $24.99, realistically.
Yeah.
And so that is true that like this is locked in at $70 for all time. But I don't know. For the size of this game, I'm fine with it. I'd be curious to see if like
I'm fine with like Nintendo can get away with it. I don't know if so many other developers could get away with it. The $70 ask, but it's like, I don't know. Nintendo's just like the one company who I think could just consistently get away with the price of their games.
Yeah, I mean, on the Switch, when other like third parties try to go to 70, because like, most of the publishers...
What else are you going to play Nintendo games on, right? You have a Switch, you have to buy games for it.
Right,
You're trapped in you're literally trapped in their ecosystem, and you will pay $70 for Zelda.
Yep, and you will pay $70 for Deca Police.
Game Boy Advance games. Jesus, I'm so mad about that.
Okay, here we go. Let's talk about this whole thing. Yeah, so another big reveal, probably the second biggest reveal of the whole thing. If you're nostalgic, it's debatable. I think I'd be curious to hear people's takes. But the big thing is, Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are not coming. I think they're on the Switch right now. But Game Boy Advance is expansion pack only. All these expansion pack. So if you have the expansion pack, like the N64 tier for Nintendo Switch Online, you're gifted with the grace of Game Boy Advance games. Whereas just the basic one is the Game Boy games, which it's funny, they're like going out of their way to like explaining how Tetris works in this Nintendo Direct.
That was
like,
real good.
Can you through all the basics? Leo, did this move any needles in your heart of hearts?
Oh.
No. Not even.
Some of the Game Boy Advance games did look kind of interesting for sure, but it's never how I'd want to play it. I still have a Vita that I would rather mod for these things than pay a continuous subscription. Emulating is ethical.
That's right. What did you see Game & Watch Gallery 3 though for the Game Boy?
I'll have to wait for the rewind slowed down trailer that I'll watch instead of the Breath of the Wild one.
Okay, yeah, you gotta soak it all in. I mean, Game Boy games, it's about what you'd expect at this point. Like, hey, Mario Land is available there, Wario Land. The cool thing is, you can have a Game Boy Color like filter put on. So it's like that's a cool idea. You can swap between it, so it'll be like you're playing on a Game Boy Color, and it'll do that weird kind of simplistic colorizing for the old games and whatnot if you don't want to play with the aggressive green. But and the cool thing too is you can play multiplayer for like, hey, if you want to play multiplayer Tetris or stuff, it'd be like the equivalent of having a link cable there. And then they showed some games coming up for the Game Boy. Let's see, Pokemon trading card game, Kirby Tilt and Tumble, the Zelda Oracle games. No old Pokemon games though. But if Pokemon trading card game is there, they're at least talking to the folks. So I'm curious to see if they'd ever put those old games on there.
I was wondering about that because I feel like, And I'm a Pokemon outsider.
Yeah.
I think if they offered Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow and stuff, I feel like a lot of people would be satisfied by that and not get the new Pokemons. If they had a Pokemon hankering, they'd go play Blue.
I think you're just talking to a bunch of old people. If you talk to anybody under the age of 20, I think they'd be disgusted.
Obviously not them, no.
Right. So it's just like you're saying, like buying Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is just people trying to like relive the glory days. And it's like, all right, I need a Pokemon on my Switch. If it's going to be an old one, so be it.
I think somewhat, yeah. You know, your general purchaser remembers Pokemon from when they're a kid and sees a new one, is excited to buy it, and maybe if they had access to whenever they wanted, they had a Pokemon hankering, they could just go back to that old one.
It could be, but then again, like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just sold over 20 million copies. So I was like, yeah, you know what? If we lose some weird old people with one foot in the grave, no harm done. But Game Boy Advance games, that's exciting. You got Minish Cap, got a bunch of good stuff on there. The cool thing is they have like the Super Mario Advance, oh God help us, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3, that Game Boy Advance port. But the cool thing is they included all of the bonus levels, because there were like 20 or so bonus levels that you only got if like you use the e-card scanner thing, which was cool because like, oh, new Nintendo levels for Super Mario Brothers 3. And tricky to get, and now that they're all bundled in there in the expansion pack, that seems like a cool way to go. And they said Golden Sun's going to be on the way, and most importantly, they showed Kururin, the game that I cannot hope to pronounce, and I need to go back and check the trailer to see how they pronounced it, but one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games where you're a spinning stick and you have to navigate mazes. It's like Twitch-based puzzle game. I don't know. Leo, did you ever play that thing? Did it ever force you to play that thing?
No, wasn't there like a limousine game that was a spiritual take on it?
Yep. So
I played that.
Okay, yeah, Roundabout is the name of that one. There's like a couple of indie games that have tried to like revive the spirit of Kuru, because Nintendo has just ignored it for a long time, except for like, you know, bundling it in with weird stuff like this. And they also released it on the Wii U as a standalone thing. But Sarah, do you think you'll play a single Game Boy Advance game on your Switch?
No, because I can play them other places.
Yeah. And the subscription service.
I don't understand. They like presented it and it's like $20 more a year for the Game Boy Advance games. And I was like, oh, that's why we crime.
That's it. Yep. It'll be cool to have on there for some folks though. So that's cool that they finally did it. And now in the year 2034, you'll get your Nintendo GameCube on the Switch, Sarah. So
yeah, I can't wait. I just like the libraries for these have all been kind of small and like Nintendo specific.
Yeah.
Too, which is weird. So I'm hoping that, like, are they going to branch out to like, you know, like Final Fantasy Tactics? Like, when are they going to? Do they just not have the rights for that, and we're just stuck with Mario games? I
mean, they have some. It just seems like I'd imagine a lot of those third parties are just holding out because it's like, well, like take like a Konami for example. Yeah, because like Konami released the Game Boy Advance games for Castlevania not too long ago in a bundle. It's like, well, if we just gave it away for free, we wouldn't be able to do it. Or like Capcom, they have that bundle coming out very soon of like the Mega Man Battle Network and stuff. And it's like, well, why throw it away when we can charge suckers a boatload of money to relive all these instead of the one-time payment
people
from...
who really like Kurukurin.
Oh, look at you.
Wow.
Oh, hey, Sarah knows how to pronounce Japanese. Very impressive. There we go. Nintendo Direct. A lot of fun stuff in there. You can check out our reaction for anything that we missed. But are there any lingering things that we missed from anybody here? Okay, I think that's it. Oh, Splatoon 3 DLC. Some weird looking single player tease.
It looked like an indie game. Like, not to harp on indie games, but they were like, what if Splatoon was an indie game? And maybe it was a little emotional and sad. Right. And it's called Side Order, and it's just like a desaturated, sad inkling in this world.
Which one of y'all theorized means you're going to paint the world with your...
Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
I'm just a sad inkling in a sad world.
I do think
with my memories of what color used to look like.
But there's a lot of stuff that's out of your reach. So I don't even know if you could like hose down a building. Maybe you just have like the ultimate spray cannon in a way you've never had in Splatoon before or something. But yeah, that's
the anti-power wash simulator.
Ooh, the way we want it. All right, let's move on. Nintendo Direct, glorious, lovely times. Leo, I know you're excited to talk about this thing, and we haven't really dove into it yet. Hitman Freelancer.
Yes.
This is
that's right.
The long-awaited mode within Hitman, and Hitman is now just one big bundle. You buy Hitman. There's no more Hitman 1, 2, 3. Who needs it? It's just a gargantuan thing called World of Assassination.
That's right. There's
Okay.
some DLC you can buy within it. It's like $70 for the full game, World of Assassination, and then three $10 DLCs.
Okay.
For a total of $100 for all of the content.
Got it. And Hitman was already your favorite game ever. And now they're adding Hitman Freelancer, which is, it's like a rogue-like? Is that the best way to describe this thing?
Yes. It was one of my favorite games, and then they announced Freelancer a year ago, last January. And I said, I'm going to download this game and kind of get prepared, practice up, because that's so up my alley, this Freelancer thing. And then over the course of last year, it became easily my favorite game of all time.
Wow.
The more I dug into it, the more it rewarded me, and it continues to. And then this mode is easily the best it's ever been.
Really? So like when you
It's
go back to
crazy.
play Hitman now, this is the way to go.
Yes. And I'm still excited to play the other content. Like, it's different enough, but let me explain the predicament I was in and a lot of the community was in.
Please.
The Hitman community.
Yeah.
Putting a lot of time into the game, the end game, the thing you're going for is to get Silent Assassin, which is this rating where no bodies are found, you never get spotted on cameras, you only kill the targets and you knock out everybody else, which is kind of limiting, but still really satisfying. And that's all the top of the leaderboards is like all Silent Assassins for the top block that are just better and better times.
Yeah.
And so it's fun and satisfying to go for that. But playing Freelancer, which that is completely ripped out, even if you get it, it doesn't even tell you. Like, it's so de-emphasized, which is a really smart move. Because previously, you'd decide to go guns blazing, you'd use that shotgun you unlocked, and you'd have a little fun, but then you'd get 1 star at the end and it'd play a clown noise at you at the rating screen. And now there's no star rating at all, and there's objectives all the time to get a shotgun kill, get a sniper kill. Tons of levels where all the bodies can be found that you want, and you don't get any kind of penalty whatsoever. And it's really made me realize, like, as much as I've loved Hitman, going for the primo Silent Assassin best rating, I'm cutting myself off from like 80% of the tools in that game.
Right.
Like 80% of the fun stuff you can do. And this having random missions with random objectives that sometimes push you to use any little microscopic thing, it's exponential, these systemic games, the amount of fun you have in them.
So it's kind of like the idea of, some people really love achievement hunting because they're like, okay, I get to explore this game in this new way and do this angle that I never really cared about before. And just having random things thrown at you in Hitman is like all you need to experience the sandbox in a new way.
Definitely. And like any good piece of Hitman content, it pulls you to parts of maps that you just haven't spent time in before, and you realize there's depth to them. I have a lot of anecdotes from the game, and I feel like those would be more fun to talk about as the specific like stories that have come out of it.
Yeah, tell us the tale, man.
On New York, the bank map, there's this vent that you can unscrew and drop a gun down into the safe deposit box room. And that's because if you walk down to the safe deposit box room, you get frisked there. And if they find a gun on you, you're screwed. And I've known that's there for the years and never had a reason to use it, because if I need to get down there, I'll just go replan, starting location, basement, bring everything I would need to avoid having to go through that frisk point. And this mode having no saves, no restarting, no replanning, none of that. It is just one continuous story where your gear is persistent. You're bringing in the weapons from your home base, and if you drop them, they're lost forever until you rebuy them. That creates this like sense of urgency and improv to what you're doing.
Right.
There's no like, I could do this better. You have to do it good now or adapt to how bad you just did it. But in this case, I finally had the chance to use this vent because my target was down there. I was started in my suit, because you always start in your suit in Freelancer. So I unscrewed it and dropped my gun down, got frisked, grabbed the gun, did a super clean kill and got out of there. It was awesome. And then later I go back to New York. I say, what a great time that was. I'm going to use that vent again, because one of my suspects here in the showdown, there's multiple climaxes throughout a campaign where you have like 8 possible suspects and you have to look at them in the camera, identify through their tells which one is your actual target. Like, this guy has a hat on and a tattoo and they smoke or they eat food or they're here to do this kind of business meeting that you look out for.
Right.
So I'm going to go check that person who's hanging out down by the safe deposit box using my classic gun in the vent trick, the Leo special.
Uh-huh.
And I'm loaded up because this is a big mission. So I drop 3 guns down there. I drop a gun and a dart pistol, all kinds of stuff. Cock of the walk downstairs to get frisked and get spotted on the way by a lookout, which is like a difficult type of NPC that's only in showdowns. And they tell my target, who then escapes. And I'm just in the middle of this busy bank in just my suit. I just dropped my only weapons down this vent. And so I'm just watching them escape. And because you're punished for dying, way more than just leaving a mission having failed it, I just don't engage. And I'm like, well, I guess that happened. And now I'm just going to have to keep rolling with it. I can go get my guns back because that's more important. I don't want to die and lose my guns. I'll just get my guns and leave the mission and bring them back to the safe house. I go downstairs after it's all said and done, get frisked, walk in, and my guns are gone. It's taken too long, and guards have spotted my guns and picked them up and taken them. And so I go, well, I guess they're probably in the security room.
Ooh, good.
So I get a guard outfit, and I go to the security room, and they're not there. But they do have other guns. And so I have this idea to take a gun off the table, go back towards near where I dropped them through the vent, and drop a gun on the floor. And then I wait for an NPC to spot it. They go tell a guard comes and picks it up. And then I follow that guard to where they've been keeping the guns. And I grab my guns out of that room and head to the exit. Still pretty clean, like nobody's mad at me. Right. And it says I failed the mission and I have to restart the campaign because it is pretty punishing about that. But it was like just a sense of victory because that little story had played out and I achieved my objective in it.
Right.
Which is, there's so much room for that in this game. All that matters in this game, Freelancer.
Yeah.
All that matters is getting out alive. Like everything else is secondary to that. And that lends such a fun energy to it, not being able to save scum or cheat that in any way.
That's awesome. I was listening to the Next Lander podcast and they were talking about it and they made it seem like if you don't have the maps memorized already, it's really hard to jump into because it sounds cool. It sounds like in theory, less intimidating way to get into Hitman is just jump into this kind of roguish mode, but it depends on you like knowing this stuff like the back of your hand.
In a way it does. I think you'll obviously have a lot more success if you do.
Yeah.
I like to think I knew the maps really well and I still got my ass kicked.
Wow.
I think it's overall pretty fair, but there were times where I was like, I don't like how this is proving that I'm bad at Hitman.
Right.
And I think if you come to it fresh because the mode sounds fun, which of course it really is, you just have to be 10 times as patient as an experienced player coming to it.
Really?
Because you can still learn and you can still take these targets on all these different parts of the map that will teach you that corner of the map.
Right.
But it's going to be slow going and you're going to lose a lot and keep having to reset. Versus if you were to learn it in the campaign, you're unlocking stuff all the time and feeling that progression. Right. Here you probably won't progress that much if you're coming in totally blind.
That's amazing. So everything that you wanted, I mean, it's just the ideal way to experience Hitman from here on out.
It's I'm still excited for the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I hope they keep supporting it. But yeah, I'll be playing this till I max out the mastery level for sure, which there's 100 levels of unlocking different cosmetics for your house. There's this whole in-between part between missions where you go back to your house and you have your weapons on the wall and you can just go upstairs and drink wine, redecorate your house. And that's a big part of the progression is just getting new decorations for your house, which I adore. It's so fun in every session to like change my outfit at the wardrobe by the door to match the location I'm going to. And then when I'm done for the day, I go in there and I switch to the outfit that's like a hoodie and jeans and just walk around my place and customize it and sit and relax. There's a meditation spot by the lake. And I will literally at the end of a session go there and just meditate. And me sitting there, just think about how lucky I am that this was made. It's so insanely up my alley, down to that house where you just hang out.
Right.
It's so many people are like confused by that. Like you just unlock different like art for your walls. What's the point of that? And it's to make me happy is the point of it.
Well, I mean, it's amazing.
And nothing else you've said so far has made me want to play it more than what you just said. So.
I know.
There you go.
Yeah, it ropes people in. Like even during, the sales pitch video we did for New Show Plus on MinnMax's YouTube channel, like when you were talking about customizing your house, like Sarah and Kelsey both perked up and took notes in a fervent way. It's like it opens it up to a different type of gamer, I think, and it's super smart.
One of the paintings I unlocked is like a painting of Jesus, like a Renaissance painting. And a lot of the cosmetics have specific interactions. And that one you can go up to and pray to. And 47 just bows his head and Does the sign of the cross?
Before you go out on your mission, you get a blessing.
Yeah.
You say thanks to God and you head
It
out.
makes it darker, interestingly.
Yeah.
There's one other like PSA I want to put out about this game if people are going to try it because of this recommendation.
Yeah.
You lose all your gear when you fail a campaign, which not every mission failure is a campaign failed, but like an alerted mission or a showdown mission, the higher stakes ones. If you mess those up, your campaign goes back to 0. And you have to do like 20 in a row to finish a campaign. And people have been fairly saying that's really punitive. It really sucks that you lose all your gear. Not your weapons on your wall, just what you had on you, but any gear, even if it's back at the safe house, gear being lockpick, explosives, key card, hacker, poison, all that stuff. You lose it whether or not you brought it. And people say that's really unfair. And it does feel bad. Like, I didn't even bring it. Why should I lose it?
Yeah.
But the balancing that has come to my mind having played more of it, which it just seems better and better balanced the more I play of it, is the fact that you lose it whether or not you bring it means you may as well bring it. And they know that gamers' instinct is going to be, I need to save all my good gear
Right.
and leave it at home. Because what if I die and I lose it? So you may as well bring it. And now that you have all these different tools, you can do so many more different fun things.
Right.
So that's the
smart.
gameplay necessity that
Right.
serves.
Huh. Smart. Hitman Freelancer. How much is the Hitman package at this point, Leo? Do you know? Like,
$70 full price, but it'll
really?
go on sale. And then, $30 a DLC. That I wish they just made it one thing.
yeah.
It sucks that there's still DLC that's confusing people and they're having trouble
no.
getting access and stuff.
Oh,
It's
that
still
does
not
suck.
ideal.
Yuck.
But it's a steal at full price, and if you see it on sale, and this sounds interesting to you, please.
Please.
I want this to be a massive success, so they
Please.
just keep supporting it.
Where
Where do they go from here, though? Like, and we thought that they couldn't like improve upon it, and then they did. But it's like we keep going up. Where is this Hitman ceiling?
Just adding more types of objectives, I feel like, is something they could support it with. Like,
Yeah.
they do great monthly roadmaps, and they could say, here, we're adding like 5 new prestige objectives. Because again, it's like adding exponentially the combinations of things that can happen from forcing you to do specific things.
Yeah. And
I just
sadly,
adore it. It's like it's too many fun stories happening in a row for me to even like keep track of, for me to even remember.
and sadly, isn't the idea is where do they go from here? They just go to Bond and work on their next game and kind of sunset Hitman once and for all.
Yeah, and that would be fair.
Yeah.
But again, I think this is going to get a lot of people in the door, and it'd be weird for them not to capitalize on it. Plus, part of the update, they changed elusive targets. You can look at your history you've done. You killed this one, died on this one, whatever. They changed it so it's categorized by year in Hitman 3. And having only done 2 years of content, that seems weird if you're not future-proofing it to just better categorize the 2 years of content there ever will be.
Right,
That gives me hope, even though there's been no indication that there's going to be anything past this.
Yeah. Right on. Hey, Jill, I want to talk to you about this this little indie game.
I feel like I've heard people say this little indie game so much as like a ironic thing when they're going to talk about like God of War or something.
Right.
That I'm actually sort of not expecting you to say what I think you're going to say, but go ahead.
Yeah, we don't do that on this podcast. We have a rule against it, no matter how much Jacob Geller insists on doing it. But no, it's a Space for the Unbound.
Yes.
100%. We talk a lot about bad game names, and I really, really like this game. A Space for the Unbound, I don't think is bringing anybody in.
Nope. Get out of here.
I'm sorry, it's perfect?
It's 100% perfect. I'm sorry that you're just wrong.
Okay, let's see. I'm trying to, if you are really hell-bent on watching a bunch of the Nintendo indie presentations and stuff, or just all of MinnMax's content, I remember the trailer, what stood out to me is it was like, oh, it has a great pixelated art style, and I remember it showed like a couple at a movie theater, like reaching for popcorn. It's like, that's a weird looking game. Maybe it's because I think I used it as a thumbnail that it stood out to me or something like that. But this is an adventure game, adventure-ish, from the side perspective. But it takes place in Indonesia in the 90s.
Yes.
And I gotta say, Jill, God bless these indie games. I think based on that pitch, I was like, this will be a cute little weird thing. Let me just see what this artsy fartsy story crap is like. And then I really have fallen in love with this game. I'm like 5 hours in at this point, but it's an adventure game, but it's like fun and funny and creative and stuff. It's really unique.
Like, that's the second time you've deeply offended me in this podcast.
But I'm telling you that your taste in games is correct.
Indie
'cause-
game is like actually good.
Look, I play and enjoy playing
I am
indie
shocked.
games, but like I think you say indie
Adventure
game,
games?
adventure game, you know, with a very specific time and place. It feels like it might be a little bit of a drag, but it is. So
when I hear
creative.
indie adventure game, I say too bad that isn't fun, but maybe it has other stuff going for it.
That's exactly it, Leo. And I'm telling you, with a Space for Unbound, the answer is it is fun. It is cool. They pack, like, you're running around one-ish area by and large, but there's a lot to pack in there. And it's a great lesson in my mind of just pretty simple mechanics overall. They pack in a bunch of like mini games and fun little creative things, but just like how entertaining can you make this one space? How many ways can we have you explore this space but not have it feel like a drag? It almost has a little bit of like that Yakuza thing of like, well, how many times am I going to be in this town? But as you wander these streets, they just keep coming up with new creative little twists. And a big part of that is space diving. Is that what it's called, Jill?
Yeah, it is space diving, and then you get another level of space diving, which I can't exactly remember. Hanson, you're only 5 hours in.
Yeah.
Like I think I only played for about 8 hours. I think was the full experience.
Okay.
I don't know where you are, but this game keeps keeps going.
Yes.
So like it starts out very like, okay, that's cool. I'm a high schooler. Like you start out and you're talking with someone and you're helping them get through sort of anxieties and writer's block and believing in themselves, and you recognize they have this very unfortunate, horrible home life, and you think that's sort of what everything's going to be about.
Right.
And then you seem to die. Like you drown.
Yeah.
And then you wake up and there's someone in front of you who's like, wake up, silly dreamy person. And you're like at school and you've fallen asleep and you're like, oh, okay, interesting. I don't know why they would start that way. And you just walk around school and you walk around, you know, being a teenager, and you've got your girlfriend that you're going to go out with.
But you're also confused about like, I don't know who this is, but she says she's my girlfriend, so I'll just go along with this.
Yeah, you don't remember anything that's happening. Every once in a while, some like the whole screen will just kind of, and you're like, what just happened? Why did that happen?
Yeah.
And then things just keep going from there. You're immediately aware that something here is not the way it should be.
Right.
But the gameplay it's so good at pulling you in to believe that this is just going to be your run of the mill like high school teenager adventure game.
Yep.
And then like superpowers start coming in and like supernatural things start happening.
Well, that's the bizarre thing. Yeah, like space diving. It's like just an option you have. You can talk to people, or there's some people you can space dive into, and then it basically becomes Psychonauts, where you're going inside of their psyche, into their head, and doing little adventure game things here. Like, okay, I need to get this person unstuck on this topic, or they're having this nightmare, and I'm in their head, and I need to alleviate that. And so you go back out to the real world, running around the city to get items to try and bring back into their head to try and alleviate it. And I really enjoy too that you're sort of questioning your motives for that, like me as the player, perhaps the character as they go along, but like you do sort of question. You're like, I'm really just messing with this person's like future aspirations and life to like gain something that's fairly unimportant in the large. Like one of the, I don't know if you're at this mission yet or if you've been here, but like one of the missions is like you want cake for your girlfriend. She's not feeling well. So like a big part of that mission is to convince the chef who's just quit that they actually really do want to be a pastry chef instead of following their dreams and being another sort of chef. So like you're really going into someone's brain, convincing them that they want to be stuck in this job that they've just quit and obviously didn't enjoy, just so that you could get a cake for your girlfriend. Right.
Like, there are some questions, and later on, like Hanson, I'm pretty sure you're not here. You see that person again, and you see what that's done to them.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of the most horrifying, like,
great.
So, it's horrifying and relatable at the same time, and I've never had that happen before.
Okay.
So I'm just like, I could see myself being this person and just screaming cake at people. But yeah, so like there's this really interesting like thoughtfulness about the game that is going through that you don't get in a game that's typically like high schoolers with magical powers sort of
right
games.
It's a little wilder, more creative, more unexpected for every turn here. And like the art is so good. It's like, okay, it's pixel art, that looks great, but just is a type of like, all right, side view that occasionally it'll like cut to a close-up or cut to some interaction, different angle, camera wrapping around. Like, I think the art is incredible. It's one of my favorite, artistically, visual games in a long time here, just on that alone.
Like, gameplay-wise, too, I really enjoy that sometimes they just totally change the way the gameplay works.
Right.
So, like, at one point, you learn how to fight.
Yeah.
And the fighting is just, like, kind of old-school fighters, like, learning combos and, like, doing combos against people, and like successfully doing that will hurt them.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, we went from this adventure game to like this old school arcade master is teaching me how to kick people. Like,
yeah.
And
Yep.
it's very aware of how kind of silly that is, and it's appropriately silly at those moments. But then it like dives back into being really serious and really thoughtful and introspective, and like it deals with some heavy topips.
Yeah. And it's cool to just explore Indonesia in the 90s, like a setting at a time you never think that you'd explore in a game. But it's a little out of the blue for me. So the developer is Mojiken and the publisher is Toji Productions. Just completely took me by surprise, but I really love it. It's on everything but Xbox at this point. So it's on the Switch, it's on Steam, it's everywhere you want it. It's great on Steam Deck, but a Space for the Unbound. And like, if this is not convincing you to check this thing out, if it's a little bit up your alley, is like, it's still sitting at overwhelmingly positive on Steam after 1,000 reviews in there, and it's still at overwhelmingly positive. It's like everyone that tries it's like, wait a minute. Please don't overlook this thing. I know a lot of good games have come out recently, but it's in that bundle of like a Hi-Fi Rush or a Dead Space remake where it's like, it's a January game, but we need to remember how good a Space for the Unbound is. So, yeah.
That sounds cool.
Hey, you know what? I think it is cool.
I put it on my wish list.
Awesome. Do you know what else is cool, Leo?
What?
You can name anything.
Hitman.
Wrong! It's Patreon! Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, everybody. You can help support independent games media. Head over there, unlock a benefit, choose a tier that works for you, find something sustainable, and then it keeps us sustainable. Thank you to some of our big supporters. Overall, I'm talking about people like HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your desktop. I'm sorry, doorstop. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why, Jill, it's the #1 meal kit in America with HelloFresh. There's promo codes below. I'm going to get into all this for the description so you can save money with HelloFresh. It's one of those things where I love having HelloFresh as a sponsor of this podcast because I personally really love HelloFresh. And if we're going to plug anything on this podcast, plugging good food showing up at your door, I'm delighted. So if you have any inclination, check out the promo code here. But hey, Leo. Go
I
ahead.
heard on another podcast, they say, we're here to talk about America's #1 meal kit. And then they said some name I'd never heard of in my life. And I said, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit.
Exactly. Hey, Leo, do you remember those New Year's goals where you promised you're going to stick to it and eat well?
Sure.
Well, HelloFresh is here to help you eat better by delivering fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your door, taking the hassle out of dinner time. And Sarah, did you know that HelloFresh now has 40 weekly recipes to choose from, so you can say bye-bye to your recipe rut and treat yourself and your family to exciting new flavors each and every week?
4D.
Incredible.
4D indeed. The recipe rut is interesting because, I got a HelloFresh shipment the other day, and one of them was meatloaves with a sweet chili glaze. And I was like, meatloaf?
Yeah.
I would never make meatloaf in a million years, but I guess I'm kind of curious about it. And then made this piece of cake to make, and then reminded myself, oh yeah, this is really good. I should have this more often. I don't know why I'm ignoring it.
I'm a meatloaf stan.
Really? Congratulations.
Absolutely underrated.
Also, delicious stuff they shipped to our place not too long ago. Mango salsa pork tacos. Delicious. Also, I'm very dumb and I'm terrible at cooking. I'm able to cook this. It can turn a schmuck like me into a Chef from MinnMax Grant level cook, like cozy holiday feast level cooking. Go to HelloFresh.com/MinnMax65, the number 65. Use that code MinnMax65, and you can get, surely this is a typo, 65% off plus free shipping for your HelloFresh order, everybody.
Insanity.
HelloFresh.com/MinnMax65. Use code MinnMax65 for 65% off plus free shipping. That
6D.
link is in the description. That's right. Links in the description for everybody, so you can check it out. Also, thank you to our dear friends at I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about one thing and one thing only, and that is a Monsters Expedition plus earlier adventures. They have the Nintendo Switch physical edition of this thing, and then they also have the vinyl soundtrack for this. This is Monsters Expedition. It's the I Am 8-Bit exclusive edition. There are 4 award-winning unique puzzle games in one: a Monsters Expedition, Cosmic Express, A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, and Sokobond. Over 100 hours of unique, no-filler puzzles for this bundle here, so check that out. Exclusive to I Am 8-Bit, the Switch version, and the vinyl edition. And just check out I Am 8-Bit in general, because they support us in a big bad way by shipping prizes to the community each and every week, and their store is filled with very cool stuff. So please go there and use the promo code SWEETHEARTS, no space, SWEETHEARTS, for 10% off of everything under $100 in I Am 8-Bit's online store. There is a link in the description with the promo codes for HelloFresh and I Am 8-Bit. Use it because they're great supporters of ours, and we want them to keep, or just to stick around in general. And we really want I Am 8-Bit to stick around because they're very generous, because they ship out this prize each and every week. And this week they're shipping Untitled Goose Game on the Nintendo Switch to whoever has the best question submitted over there on Patreon. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question for this very podcast. We're going to remember each and every question and choose unquestionably the one that deserves Untitled Goose Game. First question is from Drake Heinhorst. Are you ready for this, Jill?
I'm getting ready. I'm going to put it down so I do not forget it. Okay,
smart.
I'm ready.
God, do you really have like physical paper there for your notes for... I love that. What a classy
I'm old school
move.
like that.
It's smart. Anyways, Drake Heinhorst writes in and says, "Hey, Band and Company, I was messing around with Chat GPT AI, and I gave it the prompt, write an opening to the MinnMax Show podcast hosted by Ben Hansen and 3 cohorts. Topics include the Nintendo Direct, Hitman Freelancer, A Space for the Unbound, and community questions. Here's the response. Welcome to the MinnMax Show, where we dive into the latest and greatest in gaming news, reviews, and discussions. I'm Ben Hansen, and I'm joined by my 3 trusty co-hosts, Jill, Sarah, and Leo. Today, we've got a packed episode for you as we delve into the Nintendo Direct, the latest installment in the Hitman franchise, the highly anticipated game, A Space for the Unbound, and we'll also be answering some of your favorite community questions. So sit back, grab your controllers, and let's get gaming. You should intro the show with this and see if anyone on the panel notices.
I didn't notice. I was like, wow. Finally, a good intro.
I was lightly roasting you, and then I felt guilty afterwards. I was like, oh, what was he really trying a new intro? I didn't want him to feel bad.
Come on, everybody, grab your controllers. Time to listen to a podcast. I thought Jill was going to cut me off when I said the highly anticipated game, A Space for the Unbound, a game that came out.
I was being polite. I'm like, okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk it out. We'll see.
I was being polite about the newest installment in Hitman.
Yeah, I feel like it started the show on a weird note, and I really regret doing it, but it was worth it for the sake of the experiment, I guess.
It was worth it now.
Thank you. Even people at the backstage pass here were jumping in like, new intro? What is this? I don't understand this. Okay, thank you, Drake. And let's never court with AI again. Ampex writes in and says, hey, everyone, question for Jill. What was the process of getting the Indie Informer site, your site, to be featured on Metacritic? Also, keep up the Indie Informing.
Thank you.
That's a threat.
I've got a lot of stuff going on right now because of Steam Next Fest, so please go and check it out.
Yeah.
The process for getting your reviews up on Metacritic is surprisingly intense. So I was sort of thinking about like how to build this platform that I have, how to expand my reach. And I'm like, people check Metacritic. It's one of those things that they're like, if a game comes out, let me see what the score is. So I'm like, okay, I want a big aim of my website is to connect people with indies. I want people to be checking these out. And a lot of the time, if you go onto Metacritic, you'll find indies are not overly shown.
There's
They're
like,
not
maybe 3
represented.
reviews, maybe.
Yeah. So you get things like God of War with like hundreds of reviews, and then A Space for the Unbound, I think, has like 8.
Mm.
So it's sad because you want. I think Metacritic has to have at least 3 different reviews from different outlets in order for a score to even be populated, and I suspect that people are more likely to check out a game if it does have a score.
Right, for sure.
So I was like, okay, this might be a way to sort of for build things. So not knowing exactly what to do, I just went and was dumb, and I went to Metacritic and I was like, okay, let's see if they have a press content or contact. And they had like a basic like hello at metacritic.com
Right.
email, which I wrote to, and I'm like, hi, this is me, this is my channel, this is, how it's been doing, this is my goal. Tell me how to start this process. Someone very lovely wrote back. It's like, I'm not the person you want to talk to. Here's who you want to talk to. So I did that again. And you get a questionnaire that has like, it's like, it'll take years of your life to finish. It's a very impressive, intense sort of look at like what your goals are, what your history is, what the site's history is, what you've reviewed in the past, like what your kind of traffic looks like.
So I just want to make sure you're not just like spamming, just putting a site up quickly to actually impact the Metacritic score in a big way.
Yeah. And just like so many things I've blocked out because it's just like I had to go to a different website to see where I landed globally. And like I'm aware that I'm a new website and I'm fairly niche, so my traffic is not perhaps what an IGN might be. But like seeing where you land according to like your sort of category, it's like, okay, that's not, terrible, I guess. All the websites that exist in the world. But yeah, and then having to like sort of convince the person that you're going through this process with that like you are serious. So I'm sort of talking through my business plan with this person of like, This is how I'm growing. This is what I'm planning to do in the future. I'm not planning to be just, a flash in the pan and then go away. And this is how I'm trying to build that up, and doing Metacritic is part of that. And of course, if you don't know, Metacritic's under the fandom umbrella. So part of at kind of the later end of this process was like all of the layoffs and stuff. So like there was that extra level of like, I'm really sorry you're going through this, and I recognize that this is taking some of your time, and I don't want to push you on anything. And them being very lovely for me, actually like talking with me through this. I had to do like a Zoom call kind of one-on-one.
Really?
Yeah, to like figure out if I'm like a real person and I'm not, just to see if I'm not like bonkers or anything.
Right. But you could get ChatGPT to write a script for you to prove that you're real.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
I had recommendations that they had to check out. They had to look at my past history, and like it was a really like it's not a short
background check. It's fully like a gaming background check.
Right.
It's 100% a whole thing. Like it is a long, kind of intense, kind of scary process where you have to look inside yourself and hope you like what you see. And for me, I was really lucky, and when speaking to my person, like was told too, like normally a site that's as new as mine doesn't get this sort of like they kind of get like, okay, you're on our list of like things we'll notice, we'll wait. But because I have a background being a Game Informer and like a games journalist before that, like I think they were willing to take that risk for me, and especially because I specifically focus on indies, and they are trying to make sure that indies get that kind of coverage, that I was able to sort of in the end get on there.
Do you I know this is so early, but are you anticipating like a views bump on your site from like being in that ecosystem?
I think so. Like, I think more people will stumble across me. I think SEO, which anyone who doesn't know is search engine optimization, is going to be like, search engines are going to know me a little more because I'm more in more places.
Right.
People aren't going to stumble across me and think like, oh, this is just someone's dumb blog opinion. Like it is a level of like, okay, this person has had to go through some sort of certification process, and like, I'm not saying that that's like something that you should count necessarily. Like,
Right.
yeah, I'm definitely, my website is my own personal feelings and opinions and everything, but yeah, I think it'll help in the long run. It'll help
think so.
more people, hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. The Indie Informer was the name of the site. Ben J writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMax crew, have you all played any Steam Next Fest demos that have surprised you? It isn't much, but I played a short demo called Mika and the Witch's Mountain, which is essentially a game version of Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yep.
I was immediately hooked on the concept, as simple as it currently is. I'd love to hear any recommendations for cool demos anyone has played. Yeah, so Steam Next Fest is going on until the 13th, until Monday. And I just one of those things like, yeah, I should check that out. I know. And then just today I was cruising through it and I was kind of struck by how many bigger games are getting demos on there. Like, oh, the System Shock remake is available as a demo on Steam Next Fest. I never saw it come. Like Darkest Dungeon 2 is on there. Mm-hmm. Planet of Lana, which I was really looking forward to. Kind of that beautiful game. Looks a little bit like a Playdead game. But I played a little bit of that demo. But Jill, I assume you're the only one here that jumped in a big way. Sarah, I know you're going to in the future here. But what?
I've only played like 2.
Oh, really?
It's hard. There's so many.
Yeah. Has anything stood out from the 2 you played?
The one I played was called, let's see. I think it's called Pocket Mirror, and it's a remake of a 2016 RPG Maker game where it's like a horror pixel game that has like a very soft anime aesthetic. And I was really, I've been following it for a while, so I was excited to see the demo, and like, it's got incredible RPG Maker vibes because it is a game from that era, but it's, I don't know, I'm looking forward to playing more of it. It's very like girly, like rosy and pink, and then like also it's very like Alice in Wonderland,
right? I
would say the demo is, and I forgot that I was playing a demo until you hit that point where they're like, thanks for playing, and you're like, wait,
sorry,
no.
Do any of the Steam Next Fest demos have that Nintendo Switch thing of like the progress carrying over? Jill, do you know? Is it?
As far as I know, no.
That's a bummer.
Like, I've never had a Steam demo carry over.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the question goes for like the demos that have surprised me, I recently played, and I have, by the way, anybody who wants to check out the IndieInformer.com, I have 2 lists up and a slew full of previews for demos that are currently going. So one that I just played is Super Space Club. And this is a game that I had seen at Day of the Devs, but unfortunately just didn't get the time to actually check it out. So now I got to actually get hands-on with it. It is pure vibes. I'm loving this game. It looks like an old school, like Galactica or something, like a shooter type bullet hell thing.
Yeah.
But like the game itself is just sort of, you pick a character. Your character is either a kind of this hipster lizard or some kind of mammal. I don't know exactly what kind of mammal it is, but both look really cool, and they are supposedly in this thing, the Super Space Club. And you go out on your ship, and you're just like vibing. Like that, the soundtrack, I can't even explain to you how much I love this soundtrack. It is at one point cool and just so chill. Like the game itself, it's absolutely beautiful. You're kind of drifting around in this. It's got asteroids, but the space of it is just like usually a color tinged with another color. You can see the trail of your spaceship flying around. The mechanics are all sort of like you know, so you're feeling the flow of things, and then things start to like attack you, and then you like shoot out, and you're like trying to drift around and shoot them, and it's at the same time we've got this cool chill music going on, and you feel cool and you feel relaxed at the same time. It's like when you're done, you're just sort of like, yeah, like I've never been a cool person, you might not know, but like just like it's like you just drop the mic and walk away, and that's sort of how this game feels. It's just vibes, and I love it so much.
That's what gaming is for. Feeling like you are cool.
Yeah, accidentally cool. Yeah, they describe it. Super Space Club is a lo-fi arcade space shooter to chill to. So, okay, all right, that's not bad.
Yeah, I legitimately, this is not the sort of game that I typically gravitate towards.
Yeah.
But I really, if anybody has time, please just check this out. It's 5 minutes of your time and you will understand what's going on, and like it's a cool feeling.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
I saw Inkbound had a demo on there.
Yep.
Leo, didn't you play that a while ago?
Oh yeah, I played a bit of the technical test.
Yeah, what was that again?
It's a roguelike with combat that's kind of turn-based but doesn't really play like it. Like you're kind of moving around and using abilities, but it feels normal. The other guys just aren't moving, and then you press a button and then they do move.
Huh. Did you like it?
It was okay. It didn't really stick out to me, but I also didn't try it in co-op, which that seems like an interesting combat system to do co-op. So I wish I had insight on that.
Right.
Looking at Steam Next Fest, I'm most interested in the Cook Serve Forever demo. I can't wait to try that.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. That's up there. Jill, any other wows from jumping in so far?
Definitely try out Lakeburg Legacy. Sarah, that might be something that's on your...
Yes,
yeah.
I literally have it installed.
Yeah.
Lakeburg?
Yes. It is a sort of settlement management builder type game. But the bigger part is like amongst the other resources, your normal resources like wood and stone and coins and all that jazz, one of your resources is hearts. And you grab them by coupling up people. So like as soon as you get someone into your village, you can like go onto like this medieval manuscript Tinder like thing.
What?
And like say yes to a possible match and go on a date, and you have to like help the date go well, and if it does, they get married because that's what you do. And then if the date has gone well, your meter for like love meter is higher, so that you're producing more hearts and less likely to like fall and like have a divorce or like a affair or something. And then you can use those hearts for, you know, creating like other things. So you just can, and then if you also have more like love interests coming in, you get more workers to put into your village. So like you want to continuously have people, and then if they live in the same house for a while and they're madly in love, they start having kids, and then you can put those kids to work, you know. And it's just, you continuously, and like these games do, you build up and one thing needs the next thing, and it's just, for me, it's one of those games that's so sucks you in for time. So for most of these demos, I try really hard to like get the idea and go, so that I can like write things and try more demos.
Yeah.
This one I accidentally put over 2 hours into. And I say accidentally because I had no idea I'd put that much time in until the game cut me off. They're like, nope, you can't play anymore. I hope you enjoyed the demo. Go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, dang it.
Lakeburg Legacies is the name of that thing. That's sweet. Yeah, there's a lot to dig through. But Indie Informer, go to that site and you can find some highlights there. Hunter Blessing writes in and they say, hey, which is stronger? Leo's love for Hitman or Sarah's love for Final Fantasy XIV?
I love this question.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think Leo's been playing Hitman longer. Because I think I didn't start Final Fantasy until like 2018.
Okay.
When did you start Hitman?
When it first came out in 2016, the first one of the trilogy with the first mission was like January 2016. But how consistently have you been playing? Because I was kind of off and on. I didn't put that much time into 2 or 3 before the start of last year, really.
I will say that I played through all of Shadowbringers, like mad and rapidly, and then I did let my subscription lapse until the release of Endwalker. So that's probably like half a year where I wasn't playing. But I still have it now. And actually, I forgot, but I did play the original Final Fantasy XIV before they nuked it and they fried it and they made it better. So I played the bad Final Fantasy XIV too.
And I've barely touched any of the bad Hitmans.
All right.
But do you think in a spoilers on Passion Off, do you believe that you could take me?
I think if I had time to prepare my argument, you know, if I could prepare my thesis and everything, I think I could win.
I mean, we basically did it with Sales Pitch. The only 2 episodes of the New Show Plus show are Final Fantasy XIV and Hitman. Like, we could let the community vote on Twitter to determine once and for all if you're okay with that. I mean, Leo, if you want to consider that your spoilers on Passion Off.
I think we could
I don't know if I trust public
milk
opinion.
it more.
Okay, all right.
I think it's too soon to just have the answer.
Okay, all right.
I think we can find other ways to make these 2 concepts fight.
Got it. Andy Wera writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMaxers, is there an indie game you'd want to see remade or reimagined with a AAA team and budget?" Indie game you want to revive? Because it's tough because you want to go for the greats, but like they're already great. So you want to find something, at least in my mind, that's like a little flawed, right? That like needs the visual polish or something, right?
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
And I saw this question and I immediately wanted to talk about it because I'm going in a totally different direction you're not expecting.
Ooh.
I hate this idea.
And you hate Andy Wera for writing in with it.
Maybe I'll give him the prize just for that. No, the idea that bothers me, and a lot of like during the Game Awards and a couple of past like indie games that have won like best indie game or something, the concept and the talk that I hear and the discussion I hear around why these games might have won usually has people talking around something along the lines of like, this indie game is almost a AAA game, so that's why it's the best. And I hate this idea.
Really?
Because AAA is not the pinnacle of gaming.
Well, yeah.
Indie is literally the best gaming experience you can have. And like, I'm not joking.
I thought you were going to say you can't generalize, but
it is a level of passion and a level of interest and creativity that you don't get a lot of times in AAA gaming. Like God of War got a lot of well-deserved, like, the introspection and the heart and the story and blah. It's like those are things that are everyday indies. Like you go into an indie game and you get that.
Right.
Like I hate the idea that people believe that indie is here and then they're all aspiring to be AAA. And that's the pinnacle of what they could be, where it's like, no, it's the other way around. Like if AAAs were more like indies, they'd be better. So the idea that you would take an indie game and make it with a AAA team and like have a budget, sure. Having a bigger budget you don't need you don't need more money than you need, if that makes sense. Cause then you just sort of like add bloat and add mechanics and blah, blah, blah. But like the idea that you would remake a game, an indie game to make it be more AAA, I'm 100% not for this, like indie all the way. I would love if we could just take that idea and like take the AAA budget and like spread it over every indie possible so they could have all the budget that they need for their vision that they have.
But imagine, Jill, if you could see like in Papers, Please, the guards, if you could see their pores. I mean,
if there was a cinematic cutscene every single one, you have to watch a little movie.
Yeah, a QuickTime event for the stamp. Need I say more?
Imagine if you had gear score. I think that's such a good point to make, Jill, and I'm really glad you said that. It's interesting. Every year around Game of the Year, there's always that like, a lot of great games, a lot of cool indies, and then 2 real games that have a chance of making Game of the Year. I mean, the 2 most expensive games that were made this year.
We did give it to Chicory, last year.
Yeah.
So
and like Hades is a total exception to that.
Right.
They totally can rise out of that, but it's like it is very much seen as if an indie could be a AAA, it would be.
Right.
When that's not really the case. They're more lateral moves than a straight upgrade.
Right. My answer, Andy, is 1979 Revolution Black Friday. Which wasn't it wasn't an indie game, but they were trying to make it feel like a AAA thing. It's one of those games, where it's like it kind of had that telltale level of jank, but it was a cool idea to be like, okay, this is a documentary game about the Iranian Revolution. And it was a cool premise, and I enjoyed playing that game, but at the same time it was just like, if this actually looked as good as it's trying to, I think it'd be a little more impactful. So that's how you can make an indie game good.
My answer is always going to be Streets of Rogue to that question, which Watch Dogs Legion should have been, but wasn't. Hitman Freelancer's closer.
Ooh, interesting.
Honestly, the different disguises being the different roles.
Yeah. Villis writes in and says, for Athia, dear MinnMaxers. Hey, for Athia, Villis. Has anyone on the show played enough of Forspoken to address the truly greatest foible of its marketing team? Yes, I'm talking about the glaring lack of mentioning all the magical cats you collect in the game and all of the cat quests in the city. Where is the cat coverage on this game? Great question, Villis. You would think that Square would have noticed that Stray was nominated for Game of the Year because it had a cat in it, and that they would have had a trailer that's just nothing but the magical cats in the game, but I certainly didn't see a focus on it. Like, it was like, hey, Homer the cat's in the background of a trailer or two, but I don't think they emphasized it as much as the internet. I didn't really see a
lot of focus in any of their marketing, I would say.
Sure.
I would say the marketing for Forspoken was truly confusing in terms of like voice and theme and just like what they were trying to get across to people.
Yep. And everything they said, it was kind of, the internet wasn't taking it well. Like they had that one dev diary where the composer's like, yeah, the main character, it's kind of hip hoppy. And then the internet's like, we don't like that. So it's just like every step was just tough. You know what I was thinking about though? Villis, I'll address this to you. I was thinking about Bethesda's marketing team and what a weird split that is, because Hi-Fi Rush seems like one of the most successful marketing launches in a very long time for basically keeping it under wraps. Then everyone gets to be like, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. This rules. And now everybody loves it forever. So they have that. And then at the same time, probably that same team also has been marketing Redfall, which I feel like is one of the most botched communication jobs in the industry in a while. Like maybe with the last video, we talked on the podcast that people understand that it's not a Left 4 Dead style game, but I mean, people on like other big gaming podcasts, I want to point any fingers, just were under the assumption that Redfall, the new Arcane game, was like a Left 4 Dead clone. It's like if that level of gamer isn't understanding what that is at this point, that's a bad job.
What is it?
I don't know. No, it's just open. It's more of a Borderlands, I think. It's just an open world co-op experience where you go around and shoot the vampires,
Okay.
But I think we talked about it on the podcast, but yeah, I think seeing undead and co-op, then it's like, well, I know what that equals. Hordes of nonsense.
I feel like it also comes to the game though, because like Hi-Fi Rush is really easy to sum up and there's not much like it, so it stands out. But like Redfall, you're like, I don't know, there's like vampires and you can play with your friends and you got guns, and it's like that is so murky in the current landscape we are in, and the art style isn't distinct. So I think as someone who has had to market games, sometimes you just kind of get dealt like a harder hand.
Yeah.
I think Game Pass is like you can't underestimate how important that was for Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You could just jump in and like check. Like I think initially when I watched people's reactions to that, most people were like, "Oh, okay." Like there wasn't this like burning love of like, "Yeah, I've got to play this game. This looks awesome." It was really only until they jumped in the game that you start hearing all of these like, "Wow, this is Game of the Year contender," and like that kind of love. So maybe if when we get to Redfall, we'll have that. But like, yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, with Game Pass, it's like the best marketing they could hope for is if the first 30 minutes of the game are awesome and people talk about it. Like that's kind of all you would need to get the ball rolling. Joshua Navalis writes in and says, howdy, MinnMax. This question is for any pet-owning cohorts who are on the show this week. Recently, my partner and I adopted a cat, and we never expected that she'd have her own set of gaming preferences. When I'm playing certain games, she'll be glued to the screen, craning her neck to see as much of the action as she can. Then there are games that she couldn't care less about, napping her way through, or just leaving the room entirely. My question to you is, does your pet like watching you play games? Do they prefer some games over the others? Oh, and in case you're curious, says Joshua, my cat loves Chicory, Death Stranding, Outer Wilds, and she's utterly bored by God of War Ragnarok, The Case of the Golden Idol, and Little Gator Game. Totally makes sense. Very logical cat decisions.
I'm trying to
here.
see like what the connection is. Like I get like Chicory, the mouse moves.
Yeah.
Like Death Stranding is like all really monotone. So I was like, maybe it's color.
Right, but Little Gator Game, like...
Yeah, Little Gator Game should have, like, you've got little things popping around. And
Right.
like, I wonder if there's some sort of sound?
Ooh, the sound, interesting. Maybe.
What was the other third one that the cat liked?
The cat likes Outer Wilds, too.
Good taste.
Oh.
Great
Because there's a lot
taste.
of like, the cat has good taste.
Yeah.
Well, no, Kat. No, I mean, Sarah, your name isn't Kat. Here's the thing, though, Kat. The cat hates Case of the Golden Idol. So
Yeah. Case of
Well,
Golden
but that's
Idol.
like boring for
Little
a
Gator
cat,
Game's
right?
great.
Okay.
Nothing really moves. There's no mouse to chase after. I don't blame the cat for not wanting to read.
Yeah,
Right.
don't take that personally. My cat liked Stray and was batting at the screen and everything.
Of course.
But
That's adorable.
that's about it. He really likes watching movies. He's, for some reason, the past like year, he's suddenly really gotten into watching movies, but he doesn't really pay attention when a game's on screen.
Huh. That's weird. But just seeing another cat or hearing the cat, it's like, all right, now I'm locked in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. For my cats too, Stray, not like seeing the cats, but like hearing the cat meow was a big trigger for them to like run around and be like, what is happening?
They're like, where is the cat in the house?
They're in the walls.
Incredibly
Yeah.
authentic.
I think we game so much in this household. I don't know if I think it's just a thing. I think it's happening in the background, even though our cats are like very affectionate. So I have a really funny picture of my spouse trying to like play, but my cat really wanting to be held. So he's kind of doing this with like the cat draped over him.
That counts as love, I think. Yeah. Sarah Poggers, does he care about anything?
Well, I was gonna say like he likes games because games like immobilize me, and then he gets to sit on me. So he's like a
Interesting.
big fan of games, and he doesn't really react to them. But recently, I've been playing the Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life
Yeah.
remake, and in that game, when you're walking around in the overworld, there is like one like very high pitched bird noise that was in the original. So if you know it, you know it, and I remember it distinctly, and it goes off like almost constantly. And every time it goes off, my dog like perks up and freaks out.
Perfect.
And like I don't know what to do because I can't explain to him that it's a game. And I also don't want to play with the sound off.
right.
But it is like incredibly disruptive because he's sitting on me and then it'll be like, "Ee!" and he's like, what the?
It's
What
like
was
the
that?
perfect pitch.
And then he like relaxes and he like goes back down and then it'll be like, "Ee!" Like, what was it? Again?
What the?
It's been ruining the entire experience.
Is that game good? I didn't even know it was out.
We can just, I don't know. Do we want to talk about it when it releases in the US?
Oh, are you playing the Japanese version?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Can you believe they released it in this day and age?
That is
They
weird.
released the Japanese version in January, and they were like, "If you English speakers can wait for June."
Yeah. Can you tease it? Tease your thoughts on it?
It's the same game.
It's the same game,
It's the same exact game.
so it's good. Okay.
That's a loaded question. That's a very loaded question.
Okay, it's some old ass Harvest Moon game. Keegan Day says, "Howdy, I've been playing Pentiment and have been amazed at the historical details. As a birder, I realized the ecological details weren't as accurate. There are bird calls for whip poor wills and tufted titmice. Can we say that on a podcast? And other North American birds in this German village. Do you have any incredibly minor complaints about games that don't make you like the game any less but still nag at you when you play the game?" Keegan, first of all, I'm jealous that you're a birder. And I'm jealous
great.
that like everybody has just been praising Pentiment and its historical detail, but I love that you're just being tortured by like, these hacks at Obsidian phoned it in with the birds of all the things. You should do this, Keegan, for all media. Just have a birder review of
I would
everything.
follow that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would absolutely.
100%.
Because you know what I noticed?
Yeah.
Anna and I were talking about this on the last Cream of the Scene, but like loons are incredibly overused
Yes.
as like
Yeah.
a soundbite.
'Cause they're
and,
scary.
Like, they only exist in like Minnesota and I think Canada. Like,
Really?
yeah, they're not, but you'll be like, you'll be in like New York and you'll hear like a loon call.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I hate it. It's inaccurate. It's
Ugh.
Minnesota only.
Yeah. And that scary loon call. That's probably in more media than you
Well,
realize.
that's why they use it.
Yeah.
Absolutely make a social media account for that. Like, do they pet the
Please.
cat, but do they honor the bird?
Right, right. God, that was the weirdest thing. Going on vacation in Hawaii, I did not expect this, but like walking out of the street the first day, it was like, there are a lot of birds, and all of these are calls that I've not heard before. And like, we're staying with somebody who grew up in Hawaii, and I was just trying to explain that to her. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, these birds are wildly different. And it's like, didn't you notice that when you visited Minnesota recently for our wedding? She's like, did not hear it at all. But like, I don't even think I'm that into birds, but I became really into birds going to Hawaii because like every sound is just wildly different from anything else.
What were they like?
Is this the start of your birder journey?
I kind of want to get into birding. Leo is like, and such like that.
Okay, yeah,
I'm glad you did that.
And actually, the worst,
That was fantastic.
the worst or the best was there are roosters all over the place. So it was like roosters at like 3 a.m, waking our asses up. It was not something I expected from Hawaii, but they're everywhere. Okay, anyways, yeah, incredibly minor complaints about games that no one else noticed, but
I
drove
can't
you
get as
insane.
minor as the bird calls.
Yeah, no one can.
I think I can remember one, but I think I was in concert with, I want to say Polygon, where Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you pop up, you get a horse, and that is not like a horse that should be in that environment. There's no reason why you would get that kind of stick, skinny leg horse in that space. They're usually like kind of shorter and stockier, and they're better for snow. And I'm like,
That horse is gonna snap his legs in the
snap its little
snowbank.
legs. Get out of here with this. And it's like a typical, like, I want to say it's like based on an Arabian usually, because it's got this very beautiful, long, like majestic look to it. But it's like, that's not the kind of horse that would be like in this realm.
Right.
Why are you doing this to me? I had this, like, my husband was sitting next to me, and I was literally venting to him about this very silly horse thing. I'm like, I'm gonna ride the horse, but like, just so you know, I'm protesting.
It's outrageous. Sly Cut writes in and says, I went to take a sip of my drink a while back, and I noticed a tiny spider on the rim of my cup. If I hadn't seen it, I would have swallowed it and never noticed.
No.
Another time, my wife was eating broccoli, and I saw a little worm inching along in there. It's so small, she wouldn't have noticed eating it. My question is, if you could see the statistics of all the types and quantities of critters you've ingested in your life, would you want to see them?
Yeah.
It's an absolute yes from me.
Ignorance is bliss. What are you talking about?
100%
So it
never.
was just, okay, but if imagine it was like a warehouse. Like a warehouse with like a white floor, and it was just like, if you open that door, you will see every animal
I
you've
wouldn't open it.
accidentally
I would
consumed.
burn
You
that
open it?
warehouse to the ground.
I would just walk away.
What, Leo, what if you opened the door and it was just like, the entire floor was covered? What if it was just a horrifying amount?
What if it was just a horse in there? I think it's I'm fit as a fiddle now, and if I were to see all the bugs I've eaten to get here, that would annihilate any fear of eating them. I'd
Right.
say it made me
You
who I
would just go
am.
outside and take a handful of ants, and you would just eat them. You'd be like, this is nothing.
I've been known to
Eaten
do
ant
it.
before, I'm not gonna lie. But
You know, that question made me think of how there's always cat hair just floating around this house,
no.
and whenever I look down at my food, there's cat hair in it, and just how much cat hair I must have eaten from not looking.
Oh my God. I've definitely had it where I've been reaching for a bubbly and there was a spider on the rim. And the
I've
scariest,
never had that happen.
there's a lot of spiders
why
in
are
this
you guys
basement.
just having spiders show up around things?
I don't know. I podcast from a basement all over the place. The worst is one time I was like looking at the camera, this camera right here, and there was a spider like web, and like it was a full nest like right along the lens, and it kind of freaked me out. Like there's been a spider like next to the lens that people have been seeing me on the internet from for months probably. That was a nightmare.
No, I
Like,
hate
we're not
this.
drinking beverages in your basement anymore? I guess.
Ever.
I just had
No.
a drink there yesterday.
No, I clean it before you come, Sarah. As you can tell, it's frickin' spotless.
Like, here's the nice thing, though. When I went to Minnesota, I realized that you guys don't have the spiders that we do.
In
So
California.
I guess it's too cold. But, like, we have the two big scary ones, the Black Widow and the Brown Recluse, which, don't live back there. So, there you go.
Well, we do have black widows here. I don't know about brown recluse. We do.
No, they're supposed to only be in, like, warmer climates.
No, they love it. They love this. They love the snow. They make a little igloo and they're just fine. Dan from Canada writes in and says, "What was the most Seinfeld-like moment in your life? An instance where you feel like you were on an episode of the show."
I've never seen a single episode of Seinfeld.
No!
And I wish it would just go away.
God!
When I was in high school, I dated a 17-year-old.
Okay.
I forgot what my real answer was going to be.
That is one of those horrifying stories of, how old was Jerry? He's like 36 and he's dating like a 19-year-old or
In
something.
the show's prime, yeah.
Jesus Christ, man.
I'm sort of with Sarah on the Seinfeld. Like, I'm not huge into it, but I do have a really good Parks and Rec life situation.
Please.
Just literally like a minute down my street, there is a plaque, some sort of big memorial plaque that you think is going to be something fancy or something cool. And I pass it every day. And I eventually was like, I'm going to check to see what this is. When you look at it, it is literally memorializing the horrible and brutal murder of a leading citizen of the town. And that is what that plaque is for.
Like they died at that spot?
They were
like,
murdered right there.
And
then did you stand there and start to feel weird? Because I
felt kind of weird. I'm like, ooh.
And that's standing in San Francisco? You think that would be
No, I'm in the East Bay, but like,
okay.
It's a bizarre sort of like, why is this here? It looks like it's gonna be like, here we founded the city or something.
Right.
But no, brutal murder.
Well,
Damn.
can't win them all.
I remembered mine. It was the E3 hive when I had that beekeeper's outfit on. And you could kind of see like my neckline under the beekeeper's helmet. And people were like, Leo's naked under that beekeeper suit. And I'm like, you're naked under your clothes, pal.
Wait, were you really naked under the suit?
I have the underwear on, but it's a suit.
You pervert.
You can wear clothes under the beekeeper suit.
You can wear clothes under your clothes.
Which I do.
Yeah, all video game characters, they're just one pixel away, just one thin pixel layer from being completely butt-ass naked out there. I forget if I told you this one, Leo. I'll leave all names out of it, but I was having breakfast with somebody from the game industry.
Brag.
I don't like to brag too much. And we're at a restaurant, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to order, and one of us really wanted like lemony pancakes, but they're also like waffles that looked really good at this place. And so we're like, oh, who's going to get which? And then this other person, who again, we all know, but he's like,
I've had to hear this story.
did you really? Yeah. And he's like, oh, how about we just get the pancakes and waffles and then we can trade one pancake and one waffle. I was like, that's perfect. Cause then we'll get to mix all this together. Right? So we ordered that. And then the meal comes like, okay, great. Here's the pancake. Here's the waffle. Give it the hot swap. That's great. And I like eating. And so flew through all the food, finished it, ate the piece that he gave me. I was just delighted. Then we sat there and talked. He ate everything except for the lemon pancake that I gave him. It just sat on his plate. And it was one of those breakfasts where it's like, well, I'm going to keep talking because I'm not leaving this table until he eats that thing that I gave to him in this fair trade. And he never ate it. It just got cold on his plate. And then the waiter came around at the end and they're like, oh, would you like a box for that? And he goes, no.
The issue is that you wanted to eat it.
Yes, of course I wanted to eat it, but it's rude.
You had forfeited the rights for the pancake.
That's right.
But then he didn't eat your pancake.
So I should get that pancake.
Wanted it.
I should inherit that pancake. If you don't want to eat it at that point, that's my pancake.
Did you ask for it?
No, I thought I thought it'd be rude.
That would have been hilarious, though.
I don't, not knowing who this person is it the type of person
this is, I think, the third time I've heard this story, too.
I don't think I'd want to bring it up to him.
Yeah.
I also want to air the idea that perhaps this person was just being kind and didn't want any of yours, but knew you wanted both and was like, I want to make sure that I give this person something that'll make them happy.
I like that gesture, Jill, and that's very generous of you. But then they would say, no, please don't. No need to trade. I'll just donate a waffle to you. Please take it.
But there are people who are proud and won't receive that sort of breakfast charity.
It's gotta go. Pride must go with, and then they fall. Victor Pham writes in with something that nobody else wants to talk about, saying, with the news that Midnight Suns was a commercial flop, do you think there is superhero fatigue within the gaming space, or do you think the poor sales are for a different reason? Yeah, so Jason Schreier had a tweet where he said he talked to the head of Take-Two, Strauss Zelnick, and they said, yeah, that Marvel's Midnight Suns, critically well received, but a bit of a commercial flop is kind of the takeaway. Why do you think it didn't do well, Leo? You've been playing it.
I don't know. Did we get numbers on how Avengers did?
Ooh.
The game?
I want to say Avengers was like okay in the NPDs. It wasn't tearing it up or anything, but let me see.
Because it doesn't strike me immediately as superhero fatigue, the fact that Midnight Suns, which we're saying the fact that it flopped, did it really like flop? Or did it just not meet expectations?
I don't know where it was popping up in the NPDs. Let's see. NPDs, Marvel's, Midnight Suns. It certainly wasn't tearing up the charts, but maybe just people are taking this tweet. But I'm wondering, like, to the level of, do you think an XCOM 3 would have sold better than this? Like, I don't know. It seems like just perception-wise, it didn't make that much of a splash. And I think a big part of that is December 2nd release. I think it's tough. It's tough to get attention in that window.
I think I agree with Leo. I don't think that there's a lot of that. I don't think the superhero fatigue is really the driving force here, because like half the people I know, like game of the year for them could be Spider-Man 2, So like when you have that situation, you're like, okay, it's not really about the superhero aspect. But yeah, it might be that it released in a time when everybody was doing a lot and there was a lot to play. And I think that there is some difficulty in new superhero property with superheroes, but like these aren't your superheroes.
Also,
like, that's always a little tough.
Well, that's the big thing too, is we shouldn't overlook the fact that it's called Midnight Suns. Like even comic fans are like, what? Okay, I guess I maybe remember that run, but it's not like a legendary comic run or anything.
Yeah. Our RC took in the Backstage Pass chat, took the words out of my mouth. I think the mass superhero audience and the niche strategy genre just doesn't cross over a ton.
Right.
Yeah, I
It's
think
like
that
the
might
Venn
be
diagram.
it might be a
5
surprisingly
people.
small cut. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas,
I'd be interested in both things.
from Firaxis' point of view, if Marvel reaches out and say, hey, do you want this hot property? They're like, yeah, the biggest movies in the world. Of course we want that. Just thinking it's an automatic success. And it's like, not so easy. And you got to wonder too.
Even if it's good.
Yeah. But you got to wonder too. And also it's Steam Deck verified now. I just saw, which I'm excited to actually go back to it and pick it up again. But you got to wonder in like their post-release reports, I'd love to see what they come to for a conclusion and whether or not Marvel Snap hurt them. Because like, well, there's this Marvel card game, $60, this other Marvel card game that's free and everyone's raving about it. It's like, that's a tough market.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this site says it had 15,000 peak concurrent players on Steam, apparently. Sales-wise, it's less positive. It debuted in a mortifying 26th place in the UK physical sales charts, apparently, according to gamingbolt.com. That's physical and that's UK, so take that for what it's worth. Let's see. Kyle Silva says, hey, MinnMax, I don't have a question this week. I just wanted you all to know. And by the way, this is welcome. I love this. Just weird little factoids. I'm all for it. If anybody wants to just volley things that we can learn from. I don't have a question this week, says Cal Silva. I just wanted you all to know that the theme for Nero in Devil May Cry 5 has over 71 million views on YouTube, while Virgil's theme has over 80 million views on YouTube. And the part that blew my mind is like I went and looked at sales for Devil May Cry 5. Total of 6 million copies sold, which is damn impressive for Devil May Cry 5, but 71 million views, 80 million views for this stuff?
There's got to be some, and the person who that I'm looking at who posted it only has 23,000 subscribers. So there's got to be, it's got to be linking out to something.
You think it was like embedded somewhere, or it's just like no one else was posting the Devil Trigger song?
71 million views in 4 years.
It's shocking.
A 6-minute song.
Right.
There's got to be something. There's something going on here.
I mean, to be fair, I remember back at Game Informer, I made fun of this song, the Devil Trigger song, and I've never eaten my words more, because then I was listening to it like a couple years ago, I think for like Trivia Tower or something. I was like, wait, A, does this song rule? And B, secretly, I think it's an AFI song. One of my favorite bands. So I know this is a deep cut, but just imagine AFI singing this song, please, if you know them, because it's right there. And with these views, they should.
Living la vida loca.
Again. I was sort of thinking like,
You're trying to get some of those views, aren't you?
Please.
People can come here and listen to it now.
That's right.
Twitch
Post it on the MinnMax
Hanson,
channel.
pushing it out to people to make sure that they listen and watch.
Come on down.
There's like others, like this channel has 15 subscribers, and they posted like 2 years ago. They posted this like Devil May Cry 5 like Virgil's Rebirth sound selection.
Yeah.
It's got 9.4 million views.
What is happening?
We are in the wrong business. Like this, like they have 15 subscribers and a 9.4 million viewed video.
So we can new show plus option, and it's just us doing an acoustic cover of Devil Trigger from
that would
Devil
work.
May
I think it
Cry
would have
5.
to be us sitting there quietly listening to the song.
Just over and over again.
1 hour loop.
All right.
Chan in the
I was
Backstage
thinking,
Pass chat
like-
has a good point that it's a song, so it gets replayed a lot.
It's just so catchy.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because like when I write, a lot of the times I'll put on like a YouTube song or like a compilation of songs or whatever. So and they'll repeat and repeat. So I don't think that particular song would be conducive to writing, but
I think it's just such a niche game too. Like I expected for like bigger games.
Yeah. I mean,
this is a
6 million
side
copies
point,
sold.
but I've found that video game songs uploaded to YouTube, that comment section is the second nicest place on the internet, second to our Discord. It's like, because nobody who hates a game would ever go look up a song from it. So it's all just people going like, this was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Didn't you love this part?
God, Leo, I forget if you're on this episode, but a while ago we were talking about like things that always make us emotional. And I talked about Joni Mitchell's Circle Game. And I was like, I want to hear that. So I just pulled it up on YouTube, just like the highest viewed version of that song. It's a beautiful song. I then made the mistake of looking in the comments. I was a ball of tears. It is the sweetest comment section I've ever seen in my life. It is just filled with like old people reflecting on their lives and like, well, I'm near the end, but it was a pretty beautiful ride, and this song got me through a lot. It is like,
That's gonna be you in 50 years.
I know,
Then.
it
You'll
is
be on your deathbed and you'll go to the
unbelievable.
YouTube.
It is the most emotional website I've ever been to, is the comment section for Joni Mitchell's Circle Game on YouTube. Oh my God.
Nice.
Garrett Wainstock writes in and says, where do you think all the Labo kits are right now? It's been 5 years.
The recycling.
It's been 5 years, but they're beautifully recycled compared to all other toys. Like
They knew when they released it, they were like, people are gonna throw this shit away.
yeah, we probably like ate food out of a box that was a former Labo kit or something. But Garrett says, just think about it, man. Garrett says, it's been 5 years, which means many of the kids that built them are teenagers and need the closet space for clothes and grunge CDs. That's right. Yeah, do you think, I mean, I hit that breaking point maybe like 3 years ago of like, I love Labo, but you gotta go. I'm throwing it away at this point. If you still have Labo in your house, please call somebody for help. Sarah, did you ever play with Labo? All right.
No, because I looked at it and I said, that looks like it's going to go in the trash.
It did. But it was cool to play a little cardboard piano. That's something I've done in my life that you haven't done.
I feel like I could imagine what that would be like.
It's
and
amazing.
not need to spend the money to assemble it myself.
Yeah.
It was great for people who worked at a Game Informer or a similar office to have one around and be able to try it.
Yeah.
There was one at the Mattel office that they had gotten, and I swear to God, it had like 3 inches of dust on it.
Oh, no.
This was in like 2018.
And then you blew it off and played the Phantom of the Opera theme on the piano. It was so weird. I booted up Super Mario Odyssey this weekend. I was playing with my nephews. And it's so weird that like right when that game pops up, it's like, play this game in VR. Which, God, I forgot about that Labo VR existed. But the fact that that's still like baked into Mario Odyssey now for you to play that game with Labo VR.
What did they have against VR that they wanted to turn people into haters of it so bad?
Bear Commando writes in, this should have been by the Seinfeld question, saying, has anyone noticed that the amount of lotion in tissues, quote, with lotion, has significantly decreased in the past decade? They used to be a lot wetter. Does anybody else notice that? I don't
Is this
know.
the bird sounds guy again?
Yeah, this bird gets on top of everything. Mick Manga writes in and says, hey, number-loving cohorts, that's us. Okay, I know numbers aren't for everyone, but with the Switch surpassing both the PS4 and Game Boy in total sales, all that remains for the Switch to conquer for total hardware sales is the DS and the PS2. It's only got like 30 million left to go. So Switch is at 122 million, PS2 is 155, DS is 154. Mick's wondering, will it ever do it? I think it will.
Yeah, if they keep not doing a Switch Pro.
Yeah.
And releasing things like the next Legend of Zelda, which
Right.
is going to sell. It's going to have people buying Switches that never bought Switches before. So
Imagine buying a Switch right now and the absolute like treasure trove you now have to. What a joy.
What a joy.
You don't have to wait. Everything's already there for you.
And it'll go forever. I mean, Wind Waker remake, everything you want. Josh.
Well, let's not. The wound is fresh, Ben.
Okay,
let's not twist that knife.
I'm sorry. Josh Labaugh writes and says, video production question. Ben, is that big new PC rendering video extra quick? Was it the graphics card, the processor, both? I have an NVIDIA 1660 and Adobe seems to render nearly the same using hardware acceleration or not. What's the trick? So I upgraded the bejesus out of my PC. It has like 64 gigs of RAM in there at this point. Gotta say, I'm not blown away by like export times for video. It's fine. It's faster, but I wanted it to be like 4-hour videos and like I couldn't even blink fast enough. Also, help me out, internet. This is why I included this question. Because since upgrading everything in my computer actually goes slower. It gets hung up more often. It like locks up and freezes more often. Like little spinny icon 3 to 4 times a day, just on standard use. Did I mess something up? They installed it for me, but I'm just stuck by that idea of all that RAM and it's going slower? Something must be wrong.
Reset Windows?
What does that mean?
Yeah, have you tried turning it on and turning it back off?
If you go in your settings, you can do a reset, which like deletes some of your files, but it gives your computer a fresh start. I used to have to do it all the time when my computer had continuous problems.
Well, I upgraded to like the most recent Windows OS, but maybe just a full...
You're on Windows 11?
Yeah. You don't?
Wow.
That was such an expressive look. I love it.
Wait, why don't you have that, Sarah? Isn't it automatic?
I'm not an early adopter.
Oh, it's okay.
I've heard pretty much only bad things about it. Bad to medium things.
Maybe that's why. Yeah,
board.
maybe it's just 11's fault. I don't know.
Maybe.
Jaron writes in and says, hey, crew, decided to play Fable Anniversary recently, and it inspired my question this week. Farting, funny or faux pas? They want to know.
We need context.
Tonight's
it's
top
entirely
story.
context-based.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. So in what context is farting going to like slay you, Sarah?
I don't think it ever would.
Yeah.
That's just like a me personally. But there's times where I absolutely like, in like a Fable sense, I cannot stand it.
Yeah.
I know that I played Fable and like I did not like the humor in that game.
Okay.
When I played it, but that was one of like the weirder parts.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like, I think jokes about farts can get me. I think like fart sound effects in the right place can get me. I don't know how funny I find real farts. I think is that the dividing line?
Have I told this Ouija board story here before?
Oh dear.
It sounds like a perfect opportunity.
No.
I can't wait to see how this relates.
Mm-hmm.
So
go ahead, Joe.
We did our meetup this past summer of online friends getting together in a house
right.
here in the Twin Cities. Great time. On a whim, somebody was like, have you ever done a Ouija board? We should try that. We go to Barnes & Noble, get one. We're doing it with the full group. People are riffing on it and stuff. You know, our friends asking questions, but people can't resist cracking jokes, and that's fine. But there's like a contingent of people that say, I want to just give this an earnest try. I don't fully believe in it, but it would be fun to like actually do it. You know, so let's go off into the bedroom upstairs, lights off, candles lit. And my friend Jake did a great job leading it. Like taking it seriously, asking questions, being respectful. We're getting some mild answers, quote unquote. You know how Ouija boards work. Mm-hmm. And the question Jake asks is, "Are you afraid of us?" And then the dial slowly moves to no.
Okay.
And he says, "Should we be afraid of you?" And then my other friend lets out the loudest, deepest, bassiest fart I've ever heard in my life. And damn if we did not laugh for 15 minutes. And then we're like, okay, well, we're done. Nothing better is going to come out of this than that.
The ghost is left. The ghost is disgusted.
That's perfect fart comedy.
That is an example of undeniably funny fart.
And do you think he was holding it for like Oh, I need to save it for when we ask the second question because I know
Well,
exactly.
I think he got too scared.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
Oh,
the
interesting.
fear induced.
I'm sure it happens all the time.
That's amazing.
See, I can't help but feel sort of initially bad. That's why farting jokes don't usually work for me, because I think in a situation where one farts in front of someone, it's usually embarrassing. So I'm like, oh, like I can't watch things like Meet the Fockers or like that sort of humor. I'm just like,
Focker.
I feel so bad for you. I hate this.
Interesting. One of my favorite movies, Swiss Army Man, is about this very question.
Right.
And in a way that I think people who feel that way would get a lot out of.
I'll have to check it out.
Again. Zay says, hey, MinnMax, I recently restarted an 8-hour playthrough of Persona 3 Portable so I could play as the female main character. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, I restarted the game twice because I thought the opposite gender had better clothing, and then decided the outfits weren't worth it. Is there any reason you'll restart a game hours in? Has there ever been any game you've restarted several times in the past for petty reasons?
Hours in, I don't know if I would restart from the beginning, but I feel like I've just like dropped games because I didn't like the story path that I think I ended up on.
Okay.
And instead of restarting it, I'll just say like, well, that was fun while it lasted.
Right.
I did restart in Tactics Ogre because I didn't like the story path that I was on, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that this was the bootlicker path.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and I had to pick a different route. But I've restarted for like, Animal Crossing. You don't like the fruit you get. That's a restart.
Yeah.
But that's early game. That's like you step
Right.
on the island, your villagers are ugly, like
Nope.
restart. Like absolute like restart. But I've never like gotten halfway through a game and then been like, you know what? I think I'd like to start from the beginning right now, immediately.
Right.
Yeah, I just know that'll be the end of me playing that game. I have a better chance of continuing it, which maybe isn't even true. That's just how it feels.
Like I know that there were some people around Pentiment who didn't take it terribly seriously in the beginning.
Yes. Yep.
And then were like, oh no, like what I was doing mattered and now I'm not where, like things are not happening the way I want them to. So like they did go back. But I just stuck with it. I'm like, yeah, I was a fool and this is what I earned. So
I hate to drag us back to this, but I'm sorry. I need to share this with the class. Michael Berry, watching us live at the Backstage Pass here, said, a friend farted one time and said, quote, some asshole is talking shit behind my back.
that's a good line.
It's a good reaction.
That's a good reaction. That's a good line. I wonder if he thought of it beforehand, was like, yeah, I'm going to use this.
God.
I can't wait to have to fart.
Yeah.
He's trying to just chomp on some beans just to try and get it to go get it to go faster. Hey, can I
Good point.
thanks.
Yeah.
That's what podcasting's for. Good points. There's an indulgent question, but I think it's interesting. I think we'll get to a spot where there is some insight here. So permission to say something and you can all stick with it?
We'll see.
Okay. That sounds like a commitment to me. Adrian Creates writes in and says, hey, Ben and crew, something has been on mine since last week when I watched your cozy holiday feast on YouTube. Ben, do you remember when you asked, do babies get sad? While you sounded a bit out of touch and robot-like in your tone, I don't know about that, Adrian, it's actually a fascinating topic. I wanted to share just one point of interest. I'm a huge fan of psychology, and some recent classes I've taken have helped explain that emotions have a connection point to language. That connection point is our thoughts. Negative feelings come from our negative thoughts, and negative thoughts require language, specifically complex negative thoughts. Think about it. You can't actually feel sad about something if you don't have an articulate sad thought behind it. Take a basic example. Quote, I'm a failure. You not only would need the vocabulary to articulate that, you would also need some social context to be able to allow the concept of failure to have any effect on you. When it comes to babies, they of course have feelings and emotions, but their emotions evolve dramatically as they begin to understand language. More evidence of this has been found in a very few disturbing cases where children were left in solitary confinement without social interaction and without language. After freeing those people and teaching them to speak, they would explain that before they learned to communicate, their feelings felt very basic. Like, this feels bad, this feels good. So when it comes to needs being met, do babies feel sad? It depends on how much they understand language, Adrian says.
I feel like that's just saying you can season your sadness. like bad, like you can feel bad, you can feel sad.
Right.
But now when you get fancy words and like societal context, that's just like extra seasoning on ways you can feel bad.
More nuance to the negative
Badness.
vibe.
Yeah.
But babies can't feel like failures might be a more distinct way
Baby's
of
not
putting
going to
it.
be like, I shit my pants, I have failed, I will never climb the corporate ladder. Like, that's just like ignorance is bliss, though. Like, I want to, like, yeah, I'm sure babies don't have a lot to be sad about.
But you do have
They're not living in
studies.
this society.
Yeah,
they
you
are.
have studies also, like some of the more famous studies of like monkey parents not holding their babies, like and the babies like having issues with that, and you can like measure that. So like you can see the implications of sadness even in creatures that don't have language in the way that we have it.
Right.
I'm gonna feel really fancy right now and just shout out that like I'm currently reading Jane Eyre because I do that sometimes. And
Oh.
there's a section which I really like where Jane Eyre is talking about being a child, and like obviously author is talking about her experience as a child through the character, but you experience things that you cannot articulate, and that makes you more frustrated because you cannot tell people and express and get that off your chest.
Right.
So it is stuck within you. So like babies might be more frustrated because they can't communicate to you why they are sad, and they cannot relieve the feeling of sadness. And it's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to them because they're like a baby.
Well, I think coming out of the womb would be the worst thing to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
It's like, this is terrible. So
yeah.
I wish I could tell. I wish that there was someone I could tell and unburden myself. But alas, I am a baby.
Yeah, but even babies, they don't like look at each other and give like a head nod. Like, yeah.
Alas, I can only talk to other babies.
Which like I'm a twin, so I always
Most
had
kids,
someone
yeah.
there who could like communicate with me.
Hang on, Jill, you're a twin?
Yeah.
Sarah's a twin.
I'm a
What?
twin too. What?
Wait
Are
a
you
minute.
twins of each other?
You're long lost twins? What? This is,
Actually,
a new,
quadruplets now.
this is a
This
headline
is how
for
we
the
decided
podcast.
to announce it.
Oh my God, uncanny.
We've actually been related this entire time.
Crab Palace writes in and says, I was watching a rap battle. Crab Palace, by the way, he wrote a MinnMax rap one time. I think we played it on Better Quest. But Crab Palace says, I was watching a rap battle, and the rapper Tony D said, quote, oh, hello, that was Poggers,
Sorry,
I
Poggers
presume?
already was not interested in whatever you were going to say.
Okay, it sounded like a good old Poggers fart.
He doesn't think rapping is music.
Yeah. So Tony D says, I am way off from the norm. I engage God to play dodge with the raindrops and the storm. And then Crab Palace asks, what's the coolest you've ever heard? Well, that's pretty good. That the line about farting, the guy talking behind my back, that's pretty good. My immediate thought was, and I was trying to dig around to figure out if this was come up with on the spot, but it certainly feels that way. But do y'all remember Fernwood Tonight? It's an old comedy show from the 70s. I think it's 70s, early 80s. Anyways, there's an episode with Tom Waits on it. And Tom Waits goes onto this set and he's talking to the hosts of this comedy talk show type thing. And there's a table, and I think Tom Waits, my memory is that he like puts down like a bottle of booze, and they're like, oh, you got some booze there. And then Tom Waits just says in a very casual way, I'd rather have okay, I can't blow this. I'd rather have okay, hang on.
It's
I can't blow this. I can't blow this.
You got
No,
this.
I can't blow this.
Lost. It's over.
He says,
There's no coming back.
there
Go
is,
for it.
Leo, there is. Ready? Tom Waits looks in their eyes and he says, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Yeah.
Eminem on the track.
Isn't that amazing? And it's so casual. It has to be off the dome. But there's like apparently debate about whether or not it's from like National Lampoon or something before.
That sounds like, just one of those phrases that.
But have you ever
Get
heard
shared.
it? You can Google it. You can't find the origin of it. So you think Tom Waits, master lyricist, did not come up with that phrase on his own?
If I heard somebody say it, I wouldn't assume they did. If I just heard somebody at a bar say it.
Yeah, but if that person at the bar was Tom Waits, I think you'd assume they probably came up with it.
I wouldn't recognize Tom Waits.
Oh,
So if it was him, I still wouldn't think that because I wouldn't know who he was.
Leo? Tom Waits is actually your twin.
And he's here right now?
And he's here right now. He's been podcasting with us. Zach Moore writes in.
The coolest thing I've ever heard is from a Philosophy Tube video a long ass time ago that has effortlessly stuck with me, even though I don't think I'm going to get it exactly right. It was like, if you work all day at a job you hate for somebody whose main job is owning stuff, then are you really free because you pick what socks to wear and what to eat for lunch?
Hang on, one more time. If you work for somebody who owns stuff.
And depressing.
Yes. If you work all day at a job you hate to make money for someone whose job is owning stuff, then are you really free just because you pick what socks to wear and what to eat for lunch?
Hell yeah. We should all go back to college. No, that's good. That is good.
Or watch YouTube videos from somebody who went to college.
That's right. Zach Moore writes and says, hello, MinnMax. This question is for Leo. Sticking with the theme here. If your last name could be any other surname from the Star Wars universe, Leo Vader, what would it be?
Let's rattle off some good surnames.
Okay. Zach Moore says Leo Jetster has a nice ring to it. Jetster, of course, from the diner.
Okay.
There's Leo Windu. Kind of flows beautifully. Leo Antilles. Leo Mall is a pretty good one.
Leo Mall does sound good, but it's probably going to be Leo Banks.
Leo Banks is solid. Leo Dooku.
F tier.
I looked it up because I went down the Wikipedia rabbit hole of like, what is Count Dooku's full name? Turns out Dooku is his first name. His last name is Sereno, the name of the planet, just in case there's any Count Dooku fans out there. Leo Fisto.
Okay.
It's a name.
What about Leo Calrissian? It kind of already sounds like the real name, so it sounds good.
That is, yeah.
Okay. Leo Fortuna?
Okay.
Andor.
All right.
Leo Andor.
Leo Andor. That's a beautiful.
Gotta be Leo Andor.
That's a beautiful flow to it. Leo Urso. I think Leo. That's the secret of Leo is it goes well with any Star Wars name. Whereas Ben Kenobi, you can't combine them. They sound like trash. Okay, what do y'all like for question of the week? Jill, I know you're taking notes.
Yeah, I was. I'm looking at them, and I'm sort of in the camp of the Pentiment Birder.
Pentiment Birder. I mean, they certainly are smart. I mean, the chat, the CPU opening for the podcast is a really creative, weird choice that definitely impacted the show. The pet that changed things. The Seinfeld moments I liked. I like the Devil May Cry. Fun facts. I like the fart question. It
was a good week. It was a strong week.
It's really good, right?
Tough competition.
Yeah, Leo, Sarah, how you feeling?
I liked the bird one because I finally got to get like the overused loon sound off my chest.
Right.
I've been carrying that around a lot.
Okay.
And I finally got to like set it free.
Yes.
Sparked a very unusual, unexpected conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Leo, you can live with that?
Absolutely, easily.
All right, Keegan Day, congratulations. You just won Untitled Goose Game and the Nintendo Switch from I'm8-Bit. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh. And that's really fitting.
Oh, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll now know what a honk sounds like. Please enjoy.
But now we need to see if the person whose cat, does the cat like Untitled Goose Game?
There is a full circle. That's right. Are there fart jokes in the Goose Game? Okay, here we go. Get a load of this, everybody. Do you think this podcast would finally take off if we just replace Get a Load of This jingle with Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Leo, you got one? You want to kick this sucker off?
Yeah, I was getting one today. I don't know why I thought this one isn't good enough, but Get a Load of This. Have you seen the Love Actually deleted scene where the kid who's running through the airport to meet his crush, a classic climax of the film, he's doing like front flips and flipping over security on the way there.
What? And they cut it?
They cut it all out. But it's on YouTube and it's got an intro by the director or someone who's like, we kind of wanted to do this, but it didn't seem like the vibe. And it's a hilarious scene. The kid is just cartwheeling for no reason through these rows.
No, there's a reason. Because in the original idea of the movie, the kid was going to be really involved with gymnastics. It was going to be a huge part of his story arc. And they cut that, which is why they cut that last scene. But it's really great to watch.
All right. Links below for all this fun stuff. Hey, get a load of this, everybody. I forget if it was on this podcast or maybe I was on Giant Bomb's Game S Mornings. Maybe I was talking about it there. But we're talking about The Last of Us. and how, influential No Country for Old Men was. And then I brought up I presume Joel is named after Joel Cohen, the film's director. And then lo and behold, a couple days after that, Kurt over at Naughty Dog, Kurt Marginu, who worked on Last of Us, he just tweeted out, the main character's name was going to be Ethan for The Last of Us, but it turns out it was too close to Nathan, like Nathan Drake. So we changed it to Joel because that's the other Coen brother. So it turns out he confirmed it, that it was actually from the Coen brothers.
So cool.
Yeah, Jill, you got one?
Yeah, it's not a huge one, but very excitingly, very recently was announced a little Gator game. The little Gator character now has a plush on Fangamer, or is coming soon. I'm very excited about it.
That's a good thing to hug. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Sarah, you got something?
Yeah, I just saw this while I was scrolling today, but at the Lake Superior Ice Festival, I learned that there's something called an ice carousel. And what they did is they went out onto Lake Superior and they cut a big circle in the ice. And you literally just sit on like Adirondack chairs on the ice circle.
Yes.
And somebody like pushes and it spins the circle of ice. And the circle of ice is like, it's all iced over. So just this one area is cut out. And you sit there and someone like spins the entire thing. And isn't that just the most Midwest thing you've ever heard?
I love that. How have I lived in this state my entire damn life and I've never seen that?
We could literally go up to Duluth, cross the border, and we could ride the ice carousel.
Oh my God. Or we can make our own here in the cities.
Next new show plus.
How hard could it be? You just have to make a perfect circle. I think we could do it.
And then you have to have someone like push. You have to get like a stationary object outside the carousel.
Yeah, that's
and then you have to walk. So it's man powered.
Yeah, that's Jeffem's job. He's a good ice pusher. He can do it. Let's see. From the community, get a load of this. In the Discord channel, Smack shared this link to a tweet from Mike Bithell, who's making Tron Identity, which also had a trailer during Nintendo Direct. But he just said, hey, everybody, fill the replies to this tweet with awesome games from trans creators. And so there's a link below if you want to see this tweet, but everybody just spammed it with a ton of great games developed by trans creators like Laura McGee's If Found, Jessica Max, Sound Shapes, an everyday shooter, Sound Shapes. God, I love that game so much. Maddie Thorson's Towerfall and Celeste, Lena Rain, the composer for Celeste and Chicory, and then she's also composing something that was revealed during the Nintendo Direct today. I forget what it was.
It was the where you had like you could see the future. And you could change your future paths.
Oh, yes. The Danganronpa thing.
The visual novel one.
I'll find it. Master Detective Archives. Wait, no, I don't think it was that one.
No,
I think it's just the rain.
It was from Don't Nod.
It was Harmony. Yes,
Harmony.
There's two that are about the past in a weird way. But yeah, Harmony, The Fall of Reverie from Don't Nod. Yeah, Lena Rain's the composer for that. So you can lump that in there as well. But then also Unsighted, that Metroidvania that Jeffem really loved. It's from two trans Brazilians, apparently. Bloodborne, PSX, that demake that everybody talked about. Lilith Walther made that. And then going back, God, this is a deep cut. Mule from 1983, one of the wildest games ever made. Danielle Bunton Berry made that. So it's fun to go through that thread and find out like, damn, going back to 1983, that's incredible. All right, that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Jill, thank you for being here and talking about the Indie Informer and also having a lot of thoughts on Nintendo stuff and showing off your cute cat. Very sweet. Jill, throw a plug out there. Where should people go?
You want to see a lot of stuff that's currently going on with Steam Next Fest and you want some recommendations, hit up the indieinformer.com. Type it in, it's the first thing that pops up. You can also find me on Twitter at Finruin, that's Finruin.
Yeah.
And I'm also on Hive, if anybody's on Hive.
Are people talking on Hive? What's going on over there these days?
It seems like it dramatically dropped, but I'm still throwing things on there. So, if that's where you are, come find me.
All right. That's great. Let's see. For MinnMax stuff, Sarah and I streamed yesterday something that's going to be going up on Friday on YouTube for the YouTube version. We didn't want the Nintendo Direct to kick it out of everybody's feed right away. But Sarah and I played through Magic School Bus Explores the Human Body, an educational PC game from 1994. And Sarah came over to the MinnMax studio and we just talked about the human body for hours and learned from Miss Frizzle. It was a fun stream. I had a good time doing that with you, Sarah. Thank you for coming over for that. And then Sarah says...
I said, yes.
And that's
was
how you
fun.
promote content, baby. Also,
Confirm that it happened.
Trivia Tower, everybody. I know we've been cagey, but here's what's happening. The next episode of Trivia Tower is happening next week on a Thursday. Thursday, February 16th at 6 p.m. Central is the next episode of Trivia Tower. If you've been following Trivia Tower recently, first of all, you know that if you support us on Patreon, even at that $2 tier, you, number one, help support independent games and media. And number two, you get to compete in trivia for prizes. And we've been doing a bunch of versus matches where we go up against other communities. Like we destroyed Giant Bomb, we destroyed Kind of Funny, Easy Allies kicked our ass. But, taking in other communities and stuff. And so we are going up against another community for this episode happening on Thursday. And this is, I'm very excited about this. It is MinnMax versus Blank Check, my favorite podcast. We are inviting their community to come into our Discord and compete in trivia. And here's the kicker. Movie trivia, everybody. For the first time ever, Trivia Tower is shaking it up. No game trivia. This is going to be film trivia. And we need to conquer the Blank Check community, who are ridiculous experts at all film trivia. So we need your numbers. So jump in. If you've never competed in Trivia Tower before, this is a good opportunity. If you know a thing or two about movies, you can jump in and win a ton of great prizes. And right now the plan is JJ, the researcher from Blank Check, who's always referenced for his beautiful dossiers on that podcast, he's going to jump in and be the co-host along with Ben Hosley, Blank Check's producer. So it should be a fun time. We've had Griffin and David on the MinnMax Show podcast before, so now we're just rounding out everybody else from Blank Check. So please look forward to the next episode of Trivia Tower. Tell a friend, jump in and compete in film trivia this Thursday. It's going to be cool. That is the 16th. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, and thanks to everybody at the Game Champion tier. I'm talking about people like Max Smith, who's the champion of Mad Dash. Patrick Polk declared themselves the champion of Hi-Fi Rush, which in the next Game Championship roundup, the poll on Patreon, that could take it. Logan Krause is the champion of Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, don't forget it. RabidLime is the champion of Cookie Clicker. Great pick, everybody. Great pick. You can choose any game under the sun. Lock it in. You're the champion. It's in every description for every MinnMax video and podcast. Jill Grote, thank you again for being here. Sarah, thank you for being here. Leo, thank you for being here. It's a long episode, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, leave a review, jump in, compete in Trivia Tower, help support us directly. We appreciate it. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. Be good. Have fun. Let's go.